head to President Trump's desk as the Senate and the House GOP approve taking away funding for foreign aid and public media. We'll open the phone and text lines to get your reactions to this, asking what you are doing to protect democracy and free speech despite these continued attacks from the administration on media and the free press.
And I'm Sue O'Connell in for Margery Egan. Then it's our weekly media analysis segment, Press Play. We'll talk about the local impacts to the media landscape of the clawbacks with GBH's Callie Crossley and the Bay State Banner's Yawu Miller. Plus, we'll get their thoughts on Jeffrey Epstein and that entire saga and CBS's decision to cancel Stephen Colbert. That's all next on the 11 a.m. hour of BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the BPL.
$1 billion from foreign aid and $1.1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds NPR, PBS, and their member stations, was approved by the House overnight, and it's now on its way to President Trump for his signature. It will impact stations around the country. NPR's David Folkenflik has more on why Trump has focused on removing funding from public media.
President Trump has talked about revenge and vengeance as part of his mandate, and he put the media as a center core of that. Having the lever of federal funding meant that he had a way in which to focus on the media. He wanted to take it away. He's been calling NPR and PBS sort of left-wing monsters. The charge of bias is one that the networks have rejected, and yet it comes up again and again from Republicans. This time, they wanted to score a win, and with his pressure, they did.
NPR's David Folkenflik reporting. Republican leaders in Congress are hitting pause on a Russian sanctions bill that's drawn overwhelming bipartisan support from dozens of lawmakers. NPR's Claudia Grisales reports some sponsors say they need to move fast to finally force a ceasefire in Russia's war with Ukraine.
Amid souring relations between President Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin, GOP leaders are following Trump's lead on sanctions. House Speaker Mike Johnson says that means having patience.
We're doing this in a one-team approach, and we're not going to get in front of the White House on that. We're going to trust the State Department and the Commander-in-Chief to get that done, so we'll see how that works out.
But some co-sponsors of the Sanctioning Russia Act, like Nebraska GOP Congressman Don Bacon, say time is running out.
By giving those sanctions, we show the president there's overwhelming support to do it.
For now, they'll let Trump give Putin 50 days to reach a deal or face stiff penalties. Claudia Grisales, NPR News.
The UN Human Rights Office is condemning the widespread violence in the southern part of Syria, and it's calling on Syria's government to protect all Syrians, regardless of ethnicity or religion. NPR's Ruth Sherlock has more.
Syria's government sent troops this week to the predominantly Druze city of Sweda to end the violence between Druze militias and Sunni Muslim Bedouin tribes. But the Syrian army instead got drawn into the fighting against the Druze. The UN Human Rights Office says it's gathered credible reports of summary executions, kidnappings, and the destruction of private property. It says Syrian forces, as well as Druze and Bedouin militias, have all committed these rights violations. A ceasefire was declared on Wednesday, and the Syrian army withdrew from the area, but now the fighting between Bedouin tribes and Druze forces has resumed. Since taking power in December after a long civil war, interim President Ahmed al-Sharia has struggled to unite Syria's many factions and sects. Ruth Sherlock, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. When Vice President J.D. Vance arrives on Nantucket Island next Tuesday for a high-ticket fundraiser, he'll be met with several groups that are protesting his visit. Mass 5051 and several other Cape-based groups say they'll be front and center when Vance touches down on the island. Vance will attend a Republican National Committee fundraiser at a private residence that'll cost $100,000 per couple to attend. Host committee members will shell out $250,000 per couple. Amanda McGonigal, whose Instagram account, Cats on a Couch, was one of the first to announce Vance's visit to Nantucket. She calls the protest Meow-tucket. The Falmouth resident and cat aficionado has made it her mission to troll Vance and criticize his policies while doing it. She has 1 million followers on her Instagram account. CBS has announced that it will permanently canceling The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in May. The company is citing financial reasons, but some lawmakers, including Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, have raised concern about the decision being politically motivated. Writing on X, Warren says CBS canceled Colbert's show just 3 days after Colbert called out CBS parent company Paramount for its $16 million settlement with Trump, a deal that looks like bribery, she says. Colbert criticized the company for paying to settle a lawsuit filed by President Trump when he was running for the 2024 election, where he claimed that the network interfered in the race by editing a 60 Minutes interview with his opponent, Kamala Harris. It is 75 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Good day and happy Friday to everybody. You're listening to BPR on GPH and NEPM. There's a lot of acronyms coming up here. I am Sue O'Connell from NBC 10 Boston, and I'm here with former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral. We're in for Jim Braude, and Margery Egan will be swapping off roles. And we are broadcasting live from the BPL, Boston Public Library, and we're streaming, of course, on youtube.com, GBH News. Hello, Andrea. Good Friday to you.
Hello, Sue. Good Friday right back at you. Well, it happened. Overnight, the House, probably the least surprising news that we'll have in the year. Overnight, the House voted to approve the clawback of $1.1 billion in funding that was already allocated for PBS and NPR. You get that? The House voted to claw back funding that they previously allocated to PBS and NPR, of course, in addition to another $8 billion in cuts for programs that provide humanitarian aid globally. This so-called rescission bill now heads to President Trump's desk. He's expected to sign it, of course. And our question to you, our audience, by call or by text at 877-301-8970 is this. Does this rescission further impact your perception of America, its values, and its role as a global leader? Do you have concerns about the state of free speech in America? We're not just talking about PBS. As you just heard on the news, it's Stephen Colbert getting canceled for speaking out against CBS knuckling under to Trump. It's the president vowing to sue the Wall Street Journal for reporting accurately on his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. Dramatic at this point, but Trump's claim to be the free speech president was just another lie. 877-301-8970. Call us or text us, and the evergreen question in our minds is, how are you stepping up in ways big and small to protect the things you love, like public media? Again, 877-301-8970. Let us know.
So, Andrea, of course, the challenge here is to remind folks that, the First Amendment protects you from the government telling you what you can and cannot say and policing your free speech. And obviously, you can't just say anything. There are guardrails on the First Amendment. There are laws, defamation, libel, all sorts of things, truth in advertising. Those things are all true. Obviously, it doesn't apply to the president. That's a whole other issue. But the power that's being exerted from the government on commercial enterprises, nonprofit enterprises, is really starting to you could feel the burn. And to the point, we'll get into the Epstein stuff later, but with Donald Trump's response to the Wall Street Journal saying, I'm immediately going to sue you, I'm going to do this, here's the trophies I have, Stephanopoulos, Paramount, right. I am collecting the heads of media all around here, and it's scary, but at the same time, you can't just be frozen, you have to do things about it, right?
You have to do things about it. I mean, one of the things we rely on in a democracy, and this is sort of a cause and effect issue, but we rely on having three separate and co-equal branches of government, as I'm so fond of saying, one of which is the legislative branch. That would be Congress. They are supposed to provide a check and a balance on the president. Here, we do not have those things. They have ceded all of their power to the president. They're acting solely on behalf of the executive. What fascinates me is that we seem to have forgotten about the power of the recall election. Remember when politicians lived in fear of being recalled? And all a recall takes is so many signatures on a petition, and you can recall any elected official and say, we don't want you to be, you're not representing us. This is taxation without representation. This is no representation at all. Or you violated your oath to uphold the Constitution and provide a check and balance on the president. No one's doing that. Not in states that are red, not in states that are blue. We're not pushing back forcefully. We ask people on this show to tell us what they're doing as individuals. But we need to have bigger ideas, and we need much better leadership around the coalescing of these bigger ideas to push back on this, because this is a slow and inexorable slide into authoritarianism and fascism.
877-301-8970. And, you know, to set the table a little bit for this clawback, the average amount of your tax dollars, every American who pays taxes, if we average it out, it's $1.50 that goes to public broadcasting.
Right.
That's a half a cup of coffee. That's the only tax dollars that Americans are contributing each. Now, the number's a big number, it seems like, that is in the budget, but it also represents a savings to the federal budget of 0.016%, right? So the question here is, what do we do about it? What are people doing about it? Did you call? Obviously, the Massachusetts delegation was not a challenge, but what beyond the Massachusetts delegation did anyone do to call to, if you disagree with this, and if you agree with it, certainly we want to hear from you as well. And are you concerned about these little, you know, for us it's big news because we do this for a living, we're in the media, I care about what's happening to Stephanopoulos and to Colbert, but are you seeing the nibbling of this? That this is just every single aspect?
That it affects you.
Yes.
This affects what you have the ability to see or hear, because corporate media and corporate broadcast networks are tailoring their content to avoid these kinds of lawsuits, which they wouldn't have to do if they didn't, you know, kowtow to him to begin with. But that's kind of the issue. And it's not just the clawbacks of the funding. This is about global aid nationally. Mm-hmm. People are going to die. People are dying. Countries that have relied on us for years and years and years, where it wasn't even a question but that we would help them, their people are now in peril. And we're just doing this as though it means absolutely nothing. So, yes, let's get to the calls and the texts.
We have a text from Paula in Hingham. Maybe it's time to divorce yourself from all government influence and control. If it means more advertising and more pledging, so be it. This is the McCarthy world we are living in now. It's going to get worse unless Congress does something, and they won't until we unelect them. So an important point, you know, the NPR, public broadcasting, PBS, the money is important, but it's a small amount overall of the overall budget. But where these cuts are going to impact stations the most are in the rural areas, right? The radio, like in North Carolina when Hurricane Helene hit, the web went down, the Wi-Fi went down, the internet went down, cell service went down, and the public broadcast station there was the place where people got their information. And those stations in the rural areas, some of them depend on 60% of their budget to be able to keep broadcasting. So again, when this goes through, the stations that are going to be hurt the most are the stations who are most likely in red areas, most likely in rural areas, and are providing a service that the government hasn't been doing very well lately, which is emergency alerts when it comes to weather. So, you know, yeah, pledge more, great. Send more money, great. But at the same time, the influence that the federal government is putting on broadcasters by threatening lawsuits, threatening funds that were already approved by Congress to the point here.
Going back on their own decision for funding. And let's just make sure this whole notion that Congress has, that it's appropriate for Congress to say that any station has a liberal bias, and that's the reason for taking back funding already appropriated. Just think about what that sounds like in the wake of the existence of a Fox News, an OAN, or a Newsmax, that there are people in Congress saying that there's a liberal bias, and that's the reason that we as a government entity should take back money for public broadcasting.
Let's go to Paul in Braintree. Paul, thanks for calling in to BPR and
Hi, Paul.
GBH. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well as best you can under the current situation, or maybe current Reich. But a little bit of media history that you maybe you're aware of, tying into what happened to Stephen Colbert. Back in 1969, Jerry Williams on WBZ in the evening from 8 to midnight during the height of the Vietnam War was a major critic of Richard Nixon and the Vietnam War every night on a 50,000-watt blowtorch station that reached 38 states at least. At the same time, WBZ was then owned by Westinghouse, a major defense contractor in Vietnam. When Jerry Williams' contract was up, even though he was number one and the major moneymaker for WBZ, they did not renew Jerry Williams' contract because Westinghouse did not want to offend Richard Nixon and affect their defense contracts. And so Jerry Williams' show was canceled. I see the same thing with Stephen Colbert. Obviously, the Cheryl Redstone is in the process of selling CBS and to North Star, and she doesn't want to offend any more Donald Trump. And, of course, Stephen Colbert is a strong, rightful critic of Donald Trump. Just eliminate the whole show.
Yeah. I remember the incident here in Boston, Paul, and I think the young kids don't understand that what a powerhouse BZ was back before the internet that could reach, especially at nighttime, I recall, so far. One point I want to make is, of course, the network is saying it was for financial reasons. We don't have any statements actually saying it's because of things that Colbert was saying or not saying, and also the decline of the nighttime broadcast shows is definitely something to pay attention to. But Paul, we take your point, and thanks so much for your call and your history lesson. Important things to remember.
Well, we get a variety of different opinions, among our texters. One texter says, nobody's doing anything because most people agree with what's happening, including a huge percentage of people who claim to disagree. They just don't want to be open about it, which I wonder about from time to time. There are people that will be sort of clear about how they feel about things, and then others that will say one thing and do another. But what always sort of baffles me is how people don't see that this affects them. Mm-hmm. Because right now, the people being affected are the people that you want to be affected. I mean, that's sort of the lure, right, of authoritarianism and fascism to make you believe that they're going to hurt the people that you think need to be hurt.
But when you come for me, I'm going to be shocked.
Exactly, right. And no matter how many times it happens over the course of world history, over and over and over again, people never seem to get that eventually they come for you.
We're going to go now to Gary in the car and change gears a little bit and talk about another part of this bill. We're talking about the First Amendment, but the foreign aid is also part of it. Gary, welcome to Boston Public Radio.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm a veteran, Army retiree, 32 years active duty.
Thank you.
Moved up here to Boston about 8 years ago to live with you liberals. But anyway, I couldn't vote for Kamala. I couldn't vote for living here in a Democrat state. I don't like Democrats, but their opinion. But
here we are. We're surrounding
you. My daughter's one and her husband's one. But anyway, my point is on the foreign aid. It goes to countries and people that hate America. You give them $1 million, they raise their voice and hate America. It's terrible. I've lived all over the world for the Army, seeing other people, other cultures. I enjoyed that. But this whole foreign aid thing is ridiculous.
Gary, do you remember what John F. Kennedy said when they founded the USAID? Do you remember what the real reason for founding the USAID was?
He's dead.
Yeah, I know he's dead.
He was, but killed him.
But do you know why he said?
I understand the concept.
The concept is bribery. The concept of the USAID was to basically give money in support to enemies, people who hated us, people who needed help, so that when they get a care package, it says United States of America on it to change hearts and minds. John Kennedy was never like, let's go feed the hungry and save people. Let's change the attitudes. Let's win the hearts and minds, as that slogan goes. So USAID, which also takes up a tiny portion of the federal budget, was never, the intention was not just to save babies and feed people and stop disease. It was to bribe other people into not going to war with us, not growing terrorists, not attacking us, changing their opinions of us. Do you think that soft power, Gary, do you think the the use of soft power is an important element in a successful country's world dominance?
Name on the package. So it's not working. We need to try a different tack, a different way of doing things, because it's just not working. Now, I like NPR. I watch a lot of PBS stations, and I got Passbook because you got good shows, and I support that. The government part of it, I don't like the government funding a lot of things, like abortion and Planned Parenthood, but I served my country for 32 years active duty. I started in 1968, and I'm still serving in the VA.
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate your service, and I hope you enjoy your Massachusetts summer and the Democrats don't annoy you too much while you're at the beach. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate your points.
But I don't understand why you can't have... Now, he's clearly not an unintelligent person, right?
Yep.
But why you can't have a conversation where he answers your question? Do you think that changing hearts and minds has any value at all? You may disagree with the amount of money being given or the mechanism by which it is given, but do you think that that is worthwhile? If you can agree on the fundamental mission, then you can have an intelligent conversation about it, but you couldn't get an answer.
We're told by our friends by Jamie, I think we call you out by name, Jamie, on the producer. Andrew Nassios was on the show, a Republican, former head of USAID during the Bush administration. He said the best thing doing abroad was to change hearts and minds.
That has been a strategy for the longest period of time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily call it bribery. I would call it persuasion.
Yeah, with Sesame Street.
With incentivized persuasion, that's what I would call it.
I call it bribery.
But that has been part of the ambassadorship of this country for a very, very long time. Let's talk to Tom in the car.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm an Army veteran, too, 5 years active duty, 21 in the reserves.
I
could not disagree with your previous caller more and agree with General Mattis about the utility and the value of soft power. But that's not the point I wanted to make. I'm a GBH sustainer.
Thank you.
Did we lose them?
Tom, you still there?
Sustainer. I could do something else. Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I'm a GBH sustainer, and the next time you have a pledge drive, I could be a double sustainer. I plan to do that. But why don't the big urban stations like GBH, New York, D.C., Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, Seattle, create a special pledge drive where you can take all those pledges, pool them, and then benefit the rural stations to help them out?
Tom, I think that those kinds of solutions are definitely going to have to be part of the conversation, because you can't live in 4-year increments hoping that you get an administration that cares about these things if you care about them. And I think I've seen some evidence of this, to your point. I've heard, I've been to a couple of things at GBH, a couple of events at GBH, where they're starting to talk more about different types of approaches to funding, and not looking at the way they've funded things traditionally, continuing to look at it that way. That's also happening with nonprofits and other NGOs. They are now sort of really seeing the writing on the wall and saying to themselves, we need to be able to sustain ourselves one way or the other. So we're going to have to think about this differently and do it differently. So thank you for your call and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Tom. Joey, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm Margery today. Am I being Margery today? All over the place. I have a quick correction to make. I said it was $1.50 per American. It's $1.60.
You were way off.
I'll be very excited when Trump writes me a check back for my taxes that supported public media later on today. So let's go to Joey in the car. Joey from Boston. Welcome to Boston Public Radio.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm actually on the bus right now, so I'll keep it pretty quick.
Okay.
I wanted to know, I'm just turned 19 a couple days ago.
Happy birthday.
And yeah, thank you. My wish would be for Congress to keep funding our public broadcasting. But I would love to see a poll, because based off of the people that I've spoken with, I could guarantee you that Cookie Monster and Elmo and the characters from Sesame Street are more popular than the president right now when he's trying to defund our public broadcasting services and the congressional Republicans too. And I think this is an incredible threat to our democracy and to, people being able to talk. But it's also a threat. I mean, there's going to be a lot of kids. I grew up in Western Massachusetts, right? So I'm from a rural area. There's going to be a lot of kids who aren't going to learn about kindness and compassion and respect. When shows like Arthur and Sesame Street are being threatened. And I hope that people will, I know I certainly was during the big, ugly bill and things like that, calling to Congress, calling the congressional switchboard. There's a website called 5calls.org that people can use. To the point earlier that, our Massachusetts delegation is pretty safe, but making sure that we can call the other representatives from the other states or call family and friends from those other states who are direct constituents. I hope people can keep doing that and keep donating if they're able to. But yeah, I'd love to see a poll because I guarantee you Arthur is more popular than some of these guys
I'm sure
trying
he
to vote
is.
against kids shows.
Thanks, Joey. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and happy birthday to Joey. We appreciate that call. We're talking about the government clawbacks of billions of dollars of funding for PBS, NPR, and the global health initiatives. We're going to take a quick I am Margery Egan today. I am absolutely
I used to be
Margery
Jim
Egan.
Browdy. Sometimes I'm Sue O'Connell.
I'm
and
Sue
tomorrow I'll
O'Connell.
probably be Margery
We'll
Egan.
figure it out. We're live at the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It's because I'm over here.
A shipment of books meant for readers in Nairobi ended up at a bookstore in Copenhagen by mistake. The shop owner went with it.
Why shouldn't we take the opportunity to showcase books that reflected a different country, a different city, a different culture?
That novel switcheroo next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at mos.org. And M&M Skylights, installing and servicing the full range of commercial and residential V-Lock skylight products. More information about their installation process and consultations can be scheduled at mmskylights.com.
We're talking about government clawbacks of billions in funding for PBS, NPR, and global health initiatives. We want to talk to you, 877-301-8970.
Okay, so one of our anonymous texters said, what can we do to contact, beyond contacting our senators and representatives in Mass and Rhode Island who are already fighting for NPR, for example, can we contact other state senators and representatives? Would it mean anything? I want to do what I can to help in whatever way I can, but I don't know what my options are. Yes, you absolutely can contact senators and representatives in all other states. Some will probably receive your calls in a more friendly way than others, but there are plenty of ways, lists on social media and other places that will give you an entire list of people that you can contact. You can certainly, if you're in the position to do so, become a sustainer, become a donor. But one of the things that I say to people all the time is there were 90 million people in this country who didn't vote in the last election. That's more people by tens of millions of votes than voted for either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. You can start there. The midterms are coming up. I don't know why our Democratic leaders are not talking enough about the midterms and how what we're feeling should have an impact on how we vote. But getting people to simply vote, it's all a democracy actually ever requires any of its citizens to do, is to vote. And even if you don't like who's running, you vote for the person who will harm you and the country the least. You have an obligation to figure that out. You can't turn your back on it because you get the thing that you want, that you absolutely do not want. You are guaranteed to get it if you don't participate at all. So voting, I would say, contact representatives and senators, figure out ways to push back and to fight back. I cancel subscriptions. I didn't like that Paramount wanted to settle. I didn't like what Jeff Bezos did with the Washington Post. I don't like the Paramount thing, the CBS thing. Cancel my subscription. Don't have Prime membership with Amazon. Don't have my Paramount CBS subscription anymore. You can do little things. You can do bigger things and you can do little things, but there are some things you can do.
And we've got a texter, an anonymous texter. Remember now that we've cut back, China is now sending out aid. This is about the international aid.
Right.
So we've ceded the ground to our enemies. Listen, China has been building soccer stadiums in Africa for years, and they have swooped right in every bit of aid that the United States has pulled back. They are giving, maybe not to the same places, but in those packages that you get, instead of saying USA on them, they say China on them.
That's
now,
right.
Right?
That's right.
And China doesn't care if their feelings are hurt. China doesn't care if the people still hate them. China is thrilled about what's happening, about our cutback of USAID. You know, China's not necessarily an enemy. They're kind of a frenemy with us, so I want to make sure we're putting that in the right context. But every time we step out of someplace we were, China comes in, and China's like, all right, 5,000 of you hate us, 1 of you like us, that's a win for us, and now you hate America. So.
And that's exactly where the saying, part of the reason we have the saying, nature abhors a vacuum. We worked for decades under successive presidents, Democratic and Republican, to fill the void. So, and in our absence, like to your point, someone else will rush in because the world wants leadership, and countries that need help will look to whatever country is helping them. So
here's Marianne in Fitchburg. Marianne, welcome to Boston Public Radio. What's on your mind?
Hi, Marianne.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for taking my call. I heard the gentleman just before me or before that who called, who was a veteran, and saying, you know, gee, I'm a veteran and I don't like Planned Parenthood and whatever else he didn't like. And I think one of the things that the Trump administration and the Republicans have really been strong about is stigmatizing other people, stigmatizing groups. Planned Parenthood, you know, they're just stigmatized into all they want to do is abortions, and like they run out and try to do abortions almost like it's some sort of business for them. When in reality, less than 3% of the services that they provided were abortion services. In my own personal experience, I have an immediate family member that was a young person in her early 20s, and they found early detection breast cancer in her and got the whole thing taken care of, and we would have never, ever known were it not for Planned Parenthood. So I just am calling because I don't like, especially Planned Parenthood. They have done so much for the health and well-being of women and young women. And, you know, to this veteran, I don't know if he's still listening, but I'm thinking, like, he wouldn't like it if veterans were stigmatized, like, oh, they're just all baby killers, you know? It's sort of like that when you kind of lump just this kind of narrow thinking about any group or people.
Yeah, othering
Trump
people
is doing
is,
it with the immigrants.
Yeah, othering people is always a divide and conquer. And, you know, to your point, Marianne, a lot of these cuts on every level. Look, we're going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. But the rural areas that are going to be closing hospitals, Planned Parenthood provides most of the most of the health services for many women in rural areas, the emergency alerts from the rural area public radio stations. These are the cuts, and the government is not swooping in to take the place. And commercial stuff, look, I work for a commercial network, it's great, but commercial stations make money. That's the whole goal, to be profitable. You want to have services from your public government, from your public stations, not worrying about being profitable, being able to operate, make a living, but you need to have people who put you first. And I think in this case, we're not doing the right thing. Thanks so much, Marianne, for your call.
Thank you all for your calls and your texts.
All right, that's all the time we have for this segment right now, but we're going to take a quick break, and then it's going to be time for our Friday media analysis segment, Press Play. I'm NBC 10 Boston Sue O'Connell. That's former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral. We are in for Jim and Margery. You are listening to BPR on GPH and NEPM, live from the BPL and streaming on YouTube.com/GBH News. We'll be right back.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on The Culture Show, Emmy nominations are out. We'll look at the snubs, snoozers, and surprises. And what is the definition of an American hero? President Trump's statue garden offers some interesting answers. And speaking of heroes, how the summer blockbuster Superman is sparking controversy for being super woke. We'll take on that and more on The Culture Show's Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Concord Park, a Volunteers of America senior community in Concord, Mass., offering seniors the privacy and independence of their own apartment home, as well as care and support to help meet their needs now and as they age. ConcordPark.org. And Subaru of New England. You can explore New England in the all-wheel drive 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid. Subaru retailer locations at SubaruofNewEngland.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. NBC 10 Boston. That's why it was. Yes. Sue O'Connell and me, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral, are in for Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. We're also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. It is now time for our weekly media analysis segment called Press Play. We're joined at the BPL desk by Callie Crossley. She's host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley. It airs Sunday nights on 89.7 at 6 o'clock. You can also hear her Monday Callie commentaries on GBH's Morning Edition. She's also a co-host for The Culture Show. Hello, Callie.
Hello.
Hi,
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you all.
All right, Callie, so here we are. We're just talking about the PBS and NPR rollback. We're talking a little bit about Colbert and that cancellation. Again, I have to say that the network says it was a financial call, but of course the timing of it coming right after Colbert.
And on the heels of his most recent Primetime Emmy nomination.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about the encroachment, if not the curtailing of the First Amendment rights. Is that your take on this as well? There's a number of issues here, though, but the government
On Colbert specifically.
Colbert and PBS and NPR.
Okay, where are we going first?
You call it. You call it. You're the dance card.
Well, clearly I feel that for PBS and NPR, because where to have the battle if you feel that there is object bias, of course, is on the air. Now, I don't know. When I listen to NPR, there's a lot of contrary conversation having on, vibrant and vigorous, and I think constructive, actually, from folks who have very different opinions from each other. So, but it persists among some that somehow this is a Democratic hangout and everything that everybody says on NPR is all about a liberal bias. So I don't know what to do with that. That seems to be ingrained with a lot of folks. They seem not to care about the fact that the reality is that those small stations will close and that the larger stations like a GBH will stand. But how will we stand? Because, we are ingrained in a system that requires, it's a network. So there are some overlapping concerns and funding issues and all of that. So it's about to get real in terms of what people understand and see what they can't get, and from the way this is handled. I just have to say, one, we're not talking about USAID, but it kills me that in the same bill, they're going to spend $100,000 to burn food rather than distribute it.
Right.
In the same bill that they're denying us money they already approved, by the way. So I don't. Yes, I don't, there's no other way to put it. There's some that just do not want to hear what they perceive to be a different opinion from what they hold. So now that's PBS and NPR. So with Colbert, there are two issues here on the table. And in fact, I strongly believe that they took advantage of the fact that Colbert had just done his speech about calling the agreement with CBS. With CBS and the Trump administration to get them favor for a merger or a sale rather. And to make an announcement that they were going to make pretty soon. Now, what does that mean? That means that late night television is in trouble. If people probably weren't paying attention, they took a day back from Jimmy Fallon. So he's not doing Fridays anymore, as I understand it. That's going to start soon because they're not making the money. Why are they not making the money? Because people are going to watch the show on digital afterwards. There's plenty of traffic for him afterwards on digital, but they can't monetize that.
Exactly. So
I can't remember what year they noted that there was $439 million in profit, just let's say 5 years ago, and half of that went away. So that's a real business decision that really has nothing to do with what he said or not. Now, having said that, it worked in their favor that he just said that, and they have just made an agreement. And so they don't really care if you don't believe them when they say this was purely financial, because here they are. They do not have a signed deal yet for this agreement. So why not make it all nice if Colbert is going to say this and embarrass us, and we don't have a signed agreement yet. We assume we're going to sign it because we went into this agreement with President Trump. But, let's clean that all up too at the same time. So that's what it is.
Joining us also at the table in person is Yawu Miller. He's a former senior editor at the Bay State Banner. He's now editor-in-chief of the brand new nonprofit news service called The Flip Side. That's at flipsidenews.net. Yawu, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
So just to pick up on what Callie was discussing, when you saw the news of the rescission and the news of the clawbacks, and you can certainly also talk about the foreign aid as well, what was the reaction in the print world, in the newspaper world, when you saw what was going to? Do you think that this is just the beginning of a slippery slope, or what do you foresee? In terms of censorship, I'm talking specifically in terms of attempts at censorship.
Yeah, I think it's on the alternative side of the news where I've occupied most of my career. I think it's people are not as worried about it, but we've certainly seen some degrees of censorship at the larger newspapers such as the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. I think there's more going on afoot there than in smaller alternative news.
Okay. And in terms of the Colbert Show, and I take Callie's point about it being a business decision, but why isn't the reaction to simply try to figure out a way to monetize digital versus removing a show that is really at its peak audience-ship and still getting tons of Emmy nominations, removing that show from the air if it's a business decision?
I think it's a major challenge for all news media to how to monetize digital. It doesn't matter whether it's GBH or major networks. They haven't found a way to do it yet. most of the profit that's being made in the digital realm is being made by Google, by Facebook, by the larger corporations that own the platforms through which these things are streaming. So, it's a major challenge for journalism as more and more people go online, and it's more convenient. I certainly do as well, but
I only stream. I've stopped watching broadcasts.
The problem is to the point, because we've been in the same space, Yawu and I, for a long, long time, is that when you buy an ad in a newspaper 20 years ago, you pay $2,000 for a full page, and then we tell you what our circulation is. When you buy an ad on a website, you pay for each view that is made, and if you don't reach $2,000 worth, then they only have to pay $200. So the cost per thousand in advertising, right, in print is much higher, which is good for the newspapers, than in digital, which is much lower, which is good for the advertisers. And they don't care if they get it from you, and you, or just you. They just want the numbers. So
right.
It is the most important thing that the networks are trying to figure, and the major publications are trying to figure out how to make money. Because if Colbert goes away, and Fallon goes away, and everything goes away from broadcast, what are they going to put on YouTube?
Well, I think there's a couple of things to pay attention to right now. In this moment, we don't even have to look to the future. CBS has just announced an all-digital new kind of third hour. You know how NBC has a third hour, and ABC until recently had a third hour. And then mysteriously, the host of that third hour went away. Okay, and everybody's like, well, where are they going? And why she went to CNN and he went somewhere else. What's happening? The ABC has not said. Why? Because they can't figure out how to monetize that. CBS said, we're skipping that. We're just going to go straight to digital with our team and do our, quote, third hour. That's not exactly what they're calling it, but it's a little bit of that, because they actually have an official network.
But they've been in third place for a long time. CBS has been...
I understand that. But this is the answer to how are they trying to monetize.
Yeah.
So these are moves that they're making now, because this is how they're trying to monetize. They're going straight to digital. I mean, we're a digital-first newsroom at GBH. That's part of our deal. So that's not unusual in the way everybody is moving. That because all of you, all the audiences that used to watch at night for late night, coming back to Colbert, are not there. They watch it the next day, or later on that night,
or at
on
work.
digital, or at work.
My daughter has never watched. She watches all the late night clips. She has never watched the late night show in its entirety, except for Saturday Night Live. So, all right, let's change gears a little bit and talk about the police, the First Amendment, and police blotters. I know it's all a very sexy category here, but it's one that I care a lot about. Let's start, with an article that you did on Flipside about the Boston police, surveillance tech, city council. Can you explain what this ordinance that the city council passed and what the department is doing regarding, just explain it to us.
Sure. A few years ago, groups like the ACLU and civil liberties groups and people who watch the police were alarmed at the proliferation of surveillance technologies, the lack of transparency. You oftentimes, wouldn't find out that people were being surveilled until something comes up in court. And there was this feeling that the city council should regulate, that there should be more transparency and greater regulation of surveillance tech. So the ordinance, I believe it was 2021, basically said that before the Boston Police Department acquires or deploys any new surveillance technology, it has to be approved by the council, has to be disclosed and approved by the council. That went into law, and it's been observed, I think, more in the breach than in the actual implementation of the law. And this year, there is a clause in the law that says under exigent circumstances, the police can deploy technology. They did so with 3 different types of social media surveillance tech on the run-up to the 2024 election. But then they started using it in February, using those technologies in February of this year, and there's no explanation of there's no call that they're exigent circumstances or explanation for why they're being used or what they're being used for in the disclosure to the council. Just sort of like, by the way, we're using this.
So are you aware of any plans that the city council has to bring this issue, in front of the appropriate committee and have a hearing, or send a notice to the BPD asking for an explanation?
Well, I'm almost certain there will be a hearing. I had a brief conversation with Henry Santana, who heads the Criminal Justice Committee on the Council. He didn't respond to any questions about their surveillance technology that's already been deployed, but I know that I'm quite certain the Council is going to take this matter up.
Callie, this is like just chasing, the technology, First Amendment rights, public safety issues, governance issues. This is sort of like a perfect storm of a lot of things that we are sometimes not good at as a society, and then it gets ahead of us. Is that what you're feeling on this?
No, I'm feeling like they didn't ask permission,
Okay.
which is in the law.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling like. And that's just the bottom line. It says ask permission.
Right.
They did not ask permission. Then they said, okay, well, we didn't ask permission in these cases because it was an emergency, as Yawu has written. What's the emergency? It's February. What's happening? Again, you didn't ask permission, and it's very clearly stated. It reminds me a little bit of President Trump going to the Supreme Court with an emergency every 2 seconds, and the Supreme Court going along with him and saying, yes, it's an emergency, here we'll rule on it. And as you know, in recent weeks, Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson pointed out all along in a dissent, this is not how you govern.
Right.
This is not our role. We're supposed to look to see, is it an emergency? And yes, then we vote on it right now. But if it is not, it should go back to where it's supposed to go. So this, to me, has a little bit of that flavor. Mm-hmm. You didn't ask permission. We don't know what you're doing. That's very simple. It's not getting ahead of a damn thing.
Yeah,
you just didn't ask.
Is this just Boston, or is this anywhere else in the state?
This ordinance only applies to Boston.
Right.
However, the information that's collected goes into the Boston Regional Intelligence Center, so it gets shared not just with local police departments in Quincy and Revere and Cambridge and Brookline, but also with federal authorities. A lot of people contend that ICE has access to the information that's collected through the Boston Regional Intelligence Center.
Sure, it does.
So that, Boston police officials are either unwittingly or knowingly sharing information with federal immigration enforcement officials.
So Dan Kennedy is reporting on another story regarding police blotters. Now, in the olden days, someone was arrested. And the newspaper would print the police blotter, which many of us in community newspapers and small papers would do. If we published the person's name, the newspaper would get thrown away. It would be in the library. If somebody wanted to go look it up, they would actually have to physically go to the library, look it up, pull it out, put it on the machine, and look at it. But now when we print police blotters, it can live for almost forever. I'm also the co-publisher of South End News. We have a forget policy. So we don't print the names of anyone in the police blotter unless it's a violent crime or a serious crime. And if someone has been arrested and adjudicated and dismissed or not guilty or not charged, we remove their name from the police blotters in the past. That's our right to forget rule that we have.
Do you do it immediately?
We have gone back and expunged any name that was in the police blotter from anybody who was not convicted. Dan Kennedy is written a story about someone who is suing a news organization for not removing their name from a police blotter, and we're unclear as to what...
I don't think it's suing. It says prosecutors are pursuing criminal charges. I can't figure out where the crime is.
What's happening
here.
Yeah.
No.
Can you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
We just wanted to make sure it wasn't just us.
No, but I think what Dan's piece raises is, first of all, the whole notion of how we used to handle police blotters and what our new information... not new information, but a new assessment as journalists has brought us to, which is to realize just because it's in the police blotter, doesn't make sure
don't be a stenographer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pay attention. And that's the same thing with police reports, which we've learned, I think, in the best way through the Black Lives Matter protests, when the report was vastly different from what happened on the ground, and now we have people with cameras and other witnesses to say that. So that was part of his issue here. The other part is the policy that you talked about, Sue, is that you remove the name. The people he's charging criminally now have a policy, but it goes away after a year. If you go to their website, you can see it, but it makes it invisible to everything else after a year. Now, why it's after a year, I don't know, but that's their policy. So.
Well, at some point, I'm going to have to figure out how prosecutors got involved, because that strikes me as a huge government overreach.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we only have a couple of minutes left, but I want to get both of your opinions on this. This is one of the things that's been driving me insane for years. This both-siderism, or reporting on political things that are done as though it's just part of the horse race or an election strategy. The Globe reprinted the AP story about Trump literally saying out loud to the Texas state legislature, redraw your state congressional maps, gerrymander, in other words, so that I can keep a majority in the House, a GOP majority in the House, for the midterms. That's election rigging. That's the President of the United States telling a state legislature to help him rig an election and keep a majority. And it's reported in this AP story as though this is what the Republicans are going to do to keep their majority. And the Democrats' response is, well, if you do that, we can try to do that too. Can you, each of you, I'll start with you, Yawu, and then go to Callie, explain to me how that is not journalistic malpractice?
I mean, I think that they also said that in California they can't do that. That they have a Gavin Newsom said he'd do that.
Totally different system.
There's a nonpartisan, system for redistricting. The Democrats, neither Democrats nor Republicans control it in California, and in many states that's the case. But yeah, I mean, I do think that there's so much news coming out of the Trump administration. It's so outrageous that people are losing their ability to sort of call something out and say, this is not right, this is illegal, this is, what have you.
Yeah. Well, we kind of need the press to do that.
I think what they said was typically, and I think they were expecting those of us who are readers to get the import of this. This does not happen. This redistricting does not happen in between times of after it's been initially done. There's a period of time before it happens again, and this would be not in that time.
Right. That's why it's rigging.
I know, but I think that was the expectation that, you read it and you go, oh, well, now that's rigging the election. I will just point out something else, that back during the campaign, when President Trump is on tape saying, I need 11 votes. 11, that's what I need for Georgia, right? Was it Georgia? Yes. Okay. Yes. I mean, I'm not sure people call that. They said this is illegal, this is whatever, but was it called rigging? I don't know.
It should have been.
But I'm just answering your question I'm not sure it was characterized as that. It was characterized as here's something he's doing, and so I take your point, and yes, there needs to be clarity about what this is the rule of law. Now here's what's happening.
Right.
Okay.
All right. We're talking Callie Crossley and Yawu Miller. Thank you so much for joining us. The show's going to continue in Boston for you listening at any PM. Tune in to the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Coming up after the noon news, BPR, it's Live Music Friday with the Boston Landmarks Orchestra, NPR TV critic Eric Deggans, and so much more. I'm NBC 10 Boston Sue O'Connell. She's former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. And you are listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Stay with us.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Braude and Margery Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Knowing Nature, Stories of the Boreal Forest. Captivating photos and interactive displays take visitors inside a vast wilderness. Opens July 26th. PEM.org. The Great American Recipe is back. A new group of talented home cooks showcase signature dishes in this uplifting competition. Catch an all-new episode of The Great American Recipe tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Sue O'Connell in for Jim Browdy. Ahead on hour number 2 of BPR, live from the Boston Public Library, a welcome reprieve from the news with Live Music Friday. Today, it's the Boston Landmarks Orchestra marking their 25th season. We're going to hear them perform and talk with longtime music director Christopher Wilkins and the group's principal clarinet, Ronnie Moore.
I'm Andrea Cabral in for Margery Egan. Then NPR TV critic Eric Deggans joins us to talk about the end of a legendary late-night franchise at CBS. Plus, we'll get his thoughts on this year's Emmy nominations and the shows we should all be streaming this summer. Plus, it's our big, beautiful Two More Things segment next on the second hour of BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Congress has given final approval to a rescission of $9 billion in federal funding previously allocated to foreign aid and to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The bill cleared the House early this morning along party lines, 216 to 213. The move ends federal funding for NPR, PBS, and their member stations. The rescissions include $1.1 billion for the CPB. Catherine Marr is NPR's CEO.
The good thing for NPR is that about 1 to 2 to 3, depending on how you want to account for it in any given year, % of our funding comes from federal funding. That means that we are going to have some time to understand the implications of this and make up the loss.
Marr was speaking to NPR's Morning Edition. She says many member stations will likely cease operations because of the rescissions. Republican lawmakers who back the spending cuts say the package is part of a broader commitment to reducing wasteful spending. Health insurance costs are set to spike next year for people who buy their own plans. That's according to an analysis out today of insurance rates for 2026. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin with details.
There's one big reason why insurance premiums are going up next year. The federal money that had been making premiums lower expires in December. Those enhanced premium tax credits began during the pandemic. Cynthia Cox is with KFF, the nonpartisan health research organization that published the analysis of next year's rates.
Individuals on average are going to pay 75% more than they did this year.
People who are generally healthy might well decide that's not worth it. They'll go without health insurance and risk it. The people who can't do that tend to have chronic conditions or expensive medications, which cost insurance companies more. Cox says that's why health insurance companies are raising rates. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
Authorities in Brazil worry that the former far-right president is a flight risk, are imposing new restrictions on his movement. NPR's Carrie Kahn has more on Jair Bolsonaro.
Former President Jair Bolsonaro must wear an electronic ankle monitor and cannot communicate with foreign ambassadors or approach embassies. The tough surveillance was ordered by Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, who also banned Bolsonaro from using social media and communicating with other defendants in his ongoing criminal case. That includes his son, Eduardo, who's in exile in the U.S. Bolsonaro says he never had plans to leave Brazil and is suffering, quote, supreme humiliation. Justice Moraes is a target of conservatives for his crackdown on social media disinformation. He's removed accounts and fined companies, including Trump's. Trump says Brazil's exports will get a 50% tariff, citing Bolsonaro's case. Carrie Kahn, NPR News, Rio de Janeiro.
This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. We have an update to a story that we reported on yesterday. Wrongly reported the death of a 10th person as a result of Sunday's fire at the Gabriel House Assisted Living Facility in Fall River. The DA says that 66-year-old Brenda Cropper remains hospitalized. She is in critical condition. Yesterday, the office reported incorrectly that Cropper had died of her injuries. The DA says the error was due to a miscommunication with a medical agency. In Massachusetts, Congressman Seth Moulton has learned that he'll have a Democratic challenger who wants to unseat him in the primaries next year. Bethany Andres Beck, a software engineer and Democratic activist, is launching a primary challenge to Moulton, who caught flack last year after he made remarks about trans athletes and identity politics. Globe reports that Andres Beck, who identifies as transgender, says that Moulton is wrong when it comes to issues of the transgender community and that his comments are part and parcel of being out of touch with America. Andres Beck says it was Moulton's comments that contributed to the Democrats' losses in the November elections. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Moulton says the congressman spent the last week in Washington fighting back against the elimination of an LGBTQ crisis hotline and also resisting Republican-led efforts to cut funding for health care and public broadcasting. Red Sox start the second half of the season in Chicago with a series with the Cubs this afternoon. Start time is 2:20. 77 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from Made In, makers of cookware found in restaurants around the world, offering a carbon steel non-stick griddle for home use, designed for use indoors or outdoors on a grill or over an open flame. More at madeincookware.com.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of BPR on NBC 10 Boston. Sue O'Connell with former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. We're in for Jim and Margery, and we're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
It is time for one of my favorite weekly segments, another round of Live Music Friday. It's a classic Boston summertime tradition here. The award-winning Landmarks Orchestra is back. Last week, they launched their summer series of free concerts with 8 shows at the Hat Shell and a slate of other programs throughout the city, all free to the public. Today, they're with us at the BPL in the midst of their 25th season, ahead of a show next Wednesday at the Hat Shell called The Best of Boston. It'll contain pieces from local composers, past and present, everyone from John Williams to Amy Beach. You can go to landmarksorchestra.org for more info. And in a moment, we're going to talk to Christopher Wilkins, who's the music director for the orchestra, and Ronnie Moore, the group's principal clarinet. But first, some music. Here are the principal players performing Just a Closer Walk with Thee.
Orchestra. They're going to come over and chat with us. And, of course, reminding you that they've got a summer series of free concerts with 8 shows at the Hatch Shell and a whole bunch of other programs throughout the city. Free. I said free, free, free. Free to
We're
the
really
public.
good at that. I mean, I'm sure it's true in
Yes.
other states
No,
as well,
it is
but
not.
we're good with free concerts, theater, plays, everything in Massachusetts. We work hard at that. It's something to be proud of.
So welcome. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming
Welcome.
in. We've got Christopher Wilkins, the music director of the orchestra, and Ronnie Moore, the group's principal clarinet. What a great job. Thank you so much. Talk to me about how exciting this is. This is a big year for you guys, right?
Well, we've been at it for 25 years. We've been out in the Esplanade for about 15 years. And the whole idea is to make great music accessible to all Bostonians, and we just look at every possible strategy we can to make that happen. But the fact that our home now is the Hatch Shell, which is in the middle of a state park, owned by the people of the Commonwealth, you cannot charge admission to such a place, so we don't. But actually, we've never charged admission for anything, because we're looking entirely at how to bring down the barriers to access, and particularly in classical music, which has a certain intimidation factor. Making it fun is half the game, and so bring your dog to the park, have your kids up and dancing to the music. We have a maestro zone where children can step up on a podium and get a conducting lesson live during the concert.
Wonderful.
And so it's very informal, and that's part of the magic too.
Bring a picnic.
Bring a picnic, right?
Well, tell us what we get to look forward to from this season, season. And I also want to ask you both about a little bit more about your experience, you as principal clarinet and you as conductor, and I'll talk a little bit about the universality of music. But start first with what's coming up? What should we be looking to go see?
Well, the first program this coming Wednesday, the next upcoming program is called The Best of Boston, and I just want to begin by saying that starts with our players.
Yes.
These are all stars of professional musicians here in Boston. These are all our principal players. Ronnie, you play with many of them as colleagues in other groups.
Yeah.
But the summertime, there's not as much going on as there is in the winter. It's a pretty packed schedule with opera and ballet and so forth, Boston Philharmonic. But it's nice to have some real music to dig into in the summertime.
Absolutely. What's special about Landmarks, I think, is, first the venue, the music, and our audience. What could be better than playing at the Hatch Shell? I've been playing for a decade, I think, with Landmarks, and every time I go there, I get sort of a chill. It's so beautiful. You see a huge audience out in front of you. You see the Charles River, you see seagulls flying by.
And every conceivable mode of transportation.
Absolutely.
Motorcycles, helicopters landing on the hospitals, and then kayaks pulling up and listening off the river.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Chris can talk a little bit more about the season, but I think that the music of Landmarks is really unique. I do a little bit of programming myself. I run a concert series called Windsor Music in the not in the summer. And what we look for is trying to show people new things in addition to their favorite things. And I think Landmarks does an amazing job with that. And maybe, Chris, you can talk a little bit about what's coming up.
We don't shy away from the classics. We love to play Beethoven symphonies. We're doing the Eroica this summer. We're doing our first Mahler symphony, the Mahler first. So that's major, serious repertoire. But we try to present it in a way that will be non-intimidating and will be inviting to people. But we also expand the stylistic genres that we play, so jazz, as you've just heard, and there's a fairly strong jazz feature on the Best of Boston. All 5 composers were pianists or are pianists. The majority of them were improvisers. John Harbison was a wonderful jazz pianist living here in town. So, and you'll hear some Haitian music in a bit. We've done Korean music and music influenced by folk music of Syria. And a lot of people will look at the Western European tradition and say, that's just not me. So we look also for ways to connect with other cultures that live here in Boston, particularly emphasis this year on Haiti.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the music you're playing today for us, as well as your GBH medley that's coming up. But, Andrea and I were talking before the show about, how jazz is the American music, right? We've traveled here, we're all here, everybody has this melting pot, if you will, of musical, but jazz is American
Uniquely
music,
American,
right?
Right.
Yeah, and why is it? How did that come about? You've already said it. What makes American music distinctive is this amalgam of different cultures. It is our diversity that makes American music. And if you ask people around the world about American culture, the first thing they'll say is all the different forms of popular music that we've contributed. So that's a huge part of it, and it's a big part of our programming. The other thing we do is really work with partner organizations, because they too have followings and they bring it in. So the second week we're working with the Wheelock Family Theater. They're a great organization now, headquartered at BU, working with Nick Vargas, their director. We're also working with the Dance Complex, which is Central Square-based family of dance companies, and Peter DeMuro, who's been our partner for many years, but also children's groups, Boston String Academy, Four Strings Academy, NEMPAC, North End Music and Performing Arts Center. So and you do it too, Ronnie. You're a fabulous programmer. You just find ways to connect with people, and sometimes it's people that just never would have thought of classical music as being their thing.
Yeah, thank you. And I think in addition to the Hatch Show, we do concerts in other places too. Like, for example, we are playing and have played at the 12th Baptist in Church in Roxbury, which was really moving for me, actually, to be at the play in the place where MLK preached. And there's an amazing audience there as well.
I have a question for both of you as musicians with genres and types of music. What do you have to do in your brain or your heart or your soul or your body when you're playing different genres of music, or do you do nothing? Do you approach it the same way? If you're playing, Beethoven, or if you're playing American jazz, or if you're playing something of a folk bass, is there something that's different in you, or
Ronnie's
is it the
incredibly
same approach?
versatile and also plays lots of different instruments.
Yeah. For me personally, it's not different at all. It's, you feel the music. Certain things are more important in different genres of music, and you sort of, you listen, and you react. It's the same for me.
Listen closely, learn from great people. When you collaborate with great people in other traditions, you learn a lot. And I think our musicians tend to get stretched from year to year as they interact. When we worked with Val Janti, who's Haitian-born and just steeped in that culture, we're going to learn a lot from her about those traditions.
So what about the messaging? So there's the playing of the music and sort of the versatility that Sue was talking about, that you communicate to your audience in a way that draws them in. And I would think, I don't know, that you'd have to be very intentional about your playing and about your programming and about your directing to draw people in, to get them to see what you see in it. How do you do that? That seems like it would be very challenging.
Yeah, it's what we play, how we talk about it, who plays it, who we play it for, and where we play it, and then how we talk about all of that. So we know we can't be all things to all people, but we're going to keep trying. And that's kind of our formula. So we go about the city and we play different styles, collaborate with different folks. Hyde Square Task Force gave us a wonderful insight into Puerto Rican culture a couple of years ago. Fabiola Mendez, our guest artist that week. So, live and learn and try to get outside of our little walled city of classical music, which for many people is very intimidating.
One of the things that I find fascinating about music is how, and I'm not being Pollyanna here, and I worked in the commercial music industry in the 1980s, and people view things like rap music, country music, rock music, easy listening music. But then when you're with musicians, they're not separate, right? And if we watch the Grammy Awards or any award show, and people get up and jam together, they're not there because they're being made to go up and play together. They're up there because they want to share. We had that with, the Tracy Chapman song that, everyone was singing because it's such a great song and it unifies them. Do you see that happen with people when you're playing a type of music, any type that perhaps they thought, maybe it's classical, maybe it's Haitian, that's not for me, but do you see something change on them when they feel the music and hear the music?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's cheesy to say, but music is a universal language, and I think Chris here, my husband isn't a musician, and he comes to all the landmark shows. He's a scientist, and he always says that he has a fantastic time. And Chris is so great at explaining things, like very virtuosic at telling us how things fit together.
Sometimes an image or a story is the way in, and it can be to any type of music. It's something to just identify with, to say, what this composer is talking about is life experience that I recognize. If you can make that connection, then people find a way in. And with abstract music, that's sometimes easier said than done.
Well, Ronnie, I noticed, you have some instructional stuff on YouTube that I was watching, and you're essentially trying to make people understand the clarinet, having them meet the clarinet where they live, essentially, right? So, and I noticed in the piece, just a closer walk with thee, you did the bass clarinet, and then you sort of did the regular clarinet. How do you make an instrument accessible to people who may have, like me at one time, had the strict idea about what instrument goes with what kind of music? Like if I hear a trumpet, or if I hear a trombone, if I hear a violin, I associate that sometimes with different kinds of music. How do you bring that universality?
Right. Well, I do a lot of teaching. Thanks for watching my video.
Yes. No, it was really, I learned a lot watching it. You're a very good teacher.
I've taught like from 10 years old to 80 years old. But I think you don't need that, actually. It's basically just if you get a person to pay attention, I think there's a connection there, and I don't think there's a barrier if we're like in the same room and you see someone making music and it's going into your body physically. That's why I think the live music is really important.
And it makes people, like, there are people I'm sure that would think I would never play the clarinet. It doesn't seem like the kind of instrument I would be able to play. And then you watch one of your instructional videos and you go, I could do that. No, it's really good. And Christopher, I wanted to ask you, do you tell your audiences who the composers are, give them a little bit of background on them so they get an idea of the genesis of the music?
100%, particularly next week, where there are 5 Boston-based composers, 2 of them living, who have incredible stories to tell and contributed richly to this city. But also, people come for the music for the most part, so I think that's a delicate balance between how much storytelling you give and how much you let the music speak for itself, because that's what people are here for.
All right, before we send you back over there, talk about the fundraising aspect of it, and free isn't always, it's free to us.
Yeah, it's not free to put on. I mean, it's really expensive. It's a great orchestra, as you can hear. And, because we offer it for free, every dollar that we spend, we have to earn philanthropically. It's all contributed money. So it's largely individuals. It's people think that we're making a difference, they will contribute. So that's our charge. And we also, have to give a huge shout out to our primary foundation supporter, which is the Free for All Concert Fund, which was established by Charles Ansbacher, the orchestra's founder, and Swanee Hunt, Ambassador Swanee Hunt, to support the orchestra and its vision. So that's a big part of it. But we're constantly concerned about how we keep it going, of course.
Well, we want to congratulate you on 25 glorious years and for your contribution to all of us for the 25 years. And while you go over and make yourselves ready for our next selection, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say we got a couple of texts. You guys head over there.
Go ahead.
So an anonymous texter wanted to know what the blast shielding for the band is. Is the Pope playing the drums? Are you the Pope? No, you are not the Pope. This is just for us to be polite to our other book readers in the library.
Because we are in a library,
and
which we sometimes forget.
And then Susan on YouTube, if you haven't seen the Landmarks Orchestra at the Hatch Shell on a summer night, I highly recommend it. And Alyssa says that was fantastic music.
And can I just add one quick thing? So we always have our texters asking us, what can they do? And it's usually in the context of the political stuff, like, should I call my representative? Well, one of the other ways you can contribute is by donating to Landmark Orchestra, because you are contributing to the universality of music, the bringing of people together, right? and something that we can all feel positive about. So maybe you make a donation outside the realm, but to the good nonetheless. Now, they're now going to perform their second song, which is called Our GBH Medley. This is the Boston Landmarks Orchestra.
That's the Landmarks Orchestra. Christopher Wilkins, the music director. Ronnie Moore joined us, the group principal clarinet, and you've been listening to them. You can visit landmarksorchestra.org for more information, hear more about the free shows, and make a donation. Coming up after this quick break, NPR TV critic Eric Deggans joins us. I'm NBC 10 Boston Sue O'Connell. She's former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. We are in for Jim and Margery, and you are listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
45 years after dominating arcades, Pac-Man is being reimagined for a new generation of players, this time in a dark and gritty sci-fi story called Shadow Labyrinth.
Its shape is so iconic and it's so simple that it's easy to evoke in lots of different places.
I'm Elsa Chang, the history and future of Pac-Man on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the trustees. From hiking in the Berkshires to paddling on Martha's Vineyard, the Trustees is dedicated to providing ways for the public to connect in nature. Learn more at thetrustees.org. And Subaru of New England. The all-wheel drive 2025 Subaru Crosstrek is committed to keeping your loved ones safe on adventures this summer. Subaru retailer locations at subaruofnewengland.com.
Welcome back to BPR. She's NBC 10's Sue O'Connell. Yeah, it's the Boston. It's the Boston thing.
We'll just say NBC 10.
She's Sue O'Connell. She's media maven Sue O'Connell. I'm former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. We are sitting in for Jim and Margery today. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we're also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Here with us via Zoom to talk about the latest in the world of television is Eric Deggans. He's NPR's first full-time TV critic and the Knight Chair in Journalism and Media Ethics at Washington and Lee University. You can also subscribe to his Substack, ericdeggans.substack.com. His book is Race Baiter, How the Media Wields Dangerous Words to Divide a Nation. Hello, Eric.
Hi,
Hey,
Eric.
how's it
Welcome.
going?
Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. It's a very busy TV and media day. We're going to start, of course, with what we've been talking about, which, of course, is the clawback that is moving towards the president's desk. And we are coupling that with the Stephen Colbert news as well. Can you just give us your TV critic sort of expert take on these two issues, if they are associated, if they are different, or they are nibbling around the edge of all the thing that we maybe should be concerned about?
Well, as an NPR employee, I can't comment on the clawback. That our top executives have issued a lot of statements on that. Mm-hmm. And I think they would prefer that NPR's point of view be represented by them. So I'm not going to talk about that. But I will talk about Colbert, because I'm somebody who's covered late night for a long time. I visited Colbert's show, I think 2 or 3 times. And I visited David Letterman's show, The Late Show, twice. A few weeks after he started the show, and then 10 days before he retired and made room for Colbert. And of course, there's a lot of concern that CBS is not being fully transparent about why they made this decision. Colbert's show is the top-rated show in late night amongst the broadcast shows. CBS, in its statement on the cancellation, said it's been #1 for 9 seasons running. Now, it's an expensive show. Colbert himself earns a lot of money. And late night audiences for late night television have been diminishing as people, particularly young people, turn to streaming services and spend less time watching broadcast and cable. But still, this is a flagship show. Colbert's Late Show will celebrate its 10th anniversary next month. It just got 2 Emmy nominations. And so this is an odd time to stop doing the show, especially when there's a sense that there may not have been many conversations about how to do the show cheaper or how to keep it going under new management. Now, CBS's owner, Paramount, is about to be sold to Skydance Media, and it still needs federal approval for this deal to go through. And so there is some concern that Paramount, in a lot of ways, has been trying to appease the Trump administration, both by settling a lawsuit that many legal experts thought they could win for $16 million, and also seeing 2 people ousted or leaving 60 Minutes in the wake of pressure from the Trump administration alleging that the show unfairly edited interviews with Kamala Harris. And so when you're in a situation where a media outlet is already being accused of pressuring people to allow a deal to go through, when you cancel the top performing show on late night, which also happens to feature one of the most vocal critics of the president, people are going to ask questions.
Let's play a clip. We have Stephen Colbert from his cold opening announcing the cancellation of The Late Show. Here it is. Take a listen.
Before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
Yeah, I definitely get the impression that this is all just going away is going to be, it's both prophetic and it may become the watchwords for lots of things in broadcast media. David Bowder of the AP has a story out that is talking about the rough times ahead for broadcast, because to your point, and I'm one of those people, I stream everything. I basically don't watch any broadcast media anymore. How do you think it's going to change the landscape? Are we going to get better quality? Are we just going to get more quantity? We know that for them, the bottom line is about money. So where do you see this all headed?
Well, I think one of the big challenges is that, particularly for broadcast shows like the late night shows, when people turn to streaming, they're not going to streaming services that these media companies own to watch Colbert or to watch Jimmy Fallon or to watch Jimmy Kimmel. They're going to YouTube. And all the revenues, the ad revenues that come in from YouTube have to be split with Google, because Google owns YouTube. And so I think, if it was as simple as people were not watching Colbert on CBS, but they were watching him on Paramount Plus, it would be less of a problem. But the problem is that they're going to YouTube, where the revenues from those viewers is much, much less. And so that's a trend that I expect to see accelerated. And one of the things that has to happen is I think late night television has to evolve to kind of meet the moment. How can they present content on streaming services where they get more of the profit and they reach those younger viewers? I'm of the generation where I stayed up late during my high school years to watch David Letterman. Mm-hmm. And, there were kids who were in college who were also watching Letterman. That was one of the values of that show. That was when Letterman hosted Late Night with David Letterman right after Johnny Carson. And it brought this young audience to late night television. And that was accelerated with Conan O'Brien when he took over for David Letterman. And then it was accelerated more when Jimmy Fallon took over late night and then moved to take over The Tonight Show. But now there's a sense that younger people are watching TikTok, they're watching YouTube, they're watching Instagram. And so how can these shows transition to catch those younger viewers where they are and present material that might be interesting to them? When you look at, Netflix or Prime Video, some of these streaming services, they've had these half-hearted attempts to create topical programming like talk shows, and they don't seem to have done very well. So I think there's a concern that we're going to lose a whole genre of television, and it's a genre of television that, by the way, has been mostly devoted to poking fun at politicians and pointing out the absurdities of in particular, the conservatives who are running the country today.
All right, well, let's switch gears and talk about a happy thing. The Emmy Awards, one of my favorite things in the world. The nominations were just released. And Eric, there's always, I think, a narrative or a theme or a thread that the Emmy Awards communicate to us, the viewers. Mm-hmm. What are you taking away from this slate of nominees this year? What are the Emmy people telling us about television today?
Well, one thing I think that they're telling us is that there is still a lot of great television out there. You look at shows that have gotten multiple Emmy nominations, and of course, Severance got the most Emmy nominations of any show, 27 nominations in all, and I think it's widely considered one of the best shows on television. It's a show that is intricately put together. It's a show where the production values are high. It's a show with a bunch of different messages, both overt and more covert. And so it's a well-made piece of television. And then you look at some of the other shows that got a lot of nominations. The Penguin got the most nominations of any limited series, retelling the story of the Batman villain in a way that was really, compelling. The Studio, the comedy on Apple TV Plus, also got the most nominations for any comedy. And, starring Seth Rogen, that's considered a show that was really well done. But at the same time, there's some criticism that Emmy voters maybe haven't cast a wide enough lens. When you look at performing nominations, particularly in supporting actor categories, what you find is that a small handful of shows dominate those nominations. So Severance, the actors from Severance, many of them were nominated. The actors from The White Lotus, there were a ton of those that were nominated. If you look at, for example, guest actor in a comedy, every nominee in that category except one was from the studio. So, there's a sense that as well as Emmy voters have done on one level in, awarding these shows that everyone agrees is great, the question is, have they really watched them close enough to discern that there are great performances in Andor, the Disney Plus show that was connected to the Star Wars franchise? None of those, I don't think any of those actors got nominated. Did they look closer at some of these shows and hand out performing nominations and other nominations adequately? So, I'm a critic. We're always going to complain about the Emmys. I think they did a pretty good job this year, but there were some shows where they could have reached a little deeper in the bench and nominated some performances that, I couldn't believe. Ben Mendelsohn, who played the villain in Andor, I couldn't believe that he didn't get nominated. And John Hamm starred in Apple TV Plus as Your Friends and Neighbors. I'm surprised he didn't get nominated. So we all have our snubs and people that we thought should have been nominated.
So, Eric, I watch a lot of television. Jim Browdy is always amazed at how much television I watch. And I can only imagine if I were an Emmy voter, there's a whole bunch of stuff I haven't seen. Is the amount of really good programming shows that we can watch, does that sometimes hurt the Emmy nominations? Because a couple of these things I want to see, but I haven't had the time to see, and I'm watching like 4 hours of television a day.
Yeah, I think that's really a problem. And also, you have to keep in mind that a lot of Emmy voters work in television, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have a lot of time to watch television. And, I was a pop music critic, back in the day. And one of the things that I noted was that people who were making music often didn't have time to listen to a lot of music. And, I knew the owner of a studio who would hand his Grammy Awards nominations form to his secretary because she was younger and she listened to a lot of music and she knew more about it than he did. And so, I think sometimes with these Emmy nominations, people don't have a chance to watch enough. And also, since the pandemic broke down some of the for-year consideration receptions and screenings that Emmy voters used to go to. And you could develop a consensus. You could talk to other people in the industry and get a sense of what shows they thought were cool, and even see some of the people who made them talk about how they made these shows. That's returning, but I still think that that's broken down a little bit. So it's harder to get a sense of what everybody in the industry thinks is really good.
Okay, so let's talk about the return of some of our favorites. I am a big fan of deeply character-driven pieces, so of course I love The Bear. I think the criticism of it is unfair. I mean, I understand some of it. But tell people a little bit about this season, and also talk a little bit about where you fall as a critic in terms of the criticism it gets, either for its categorization for the Emmys or for the way the show sort of ebbs and flows.
Sure, and for those who may not watch it, The Bear is a story of a gourmet-trained chef who returns to his family's greasy spoon in Chicago from New York and tries to transform it into a fine dining establishment.
And there are no bears in it, just for
there are no bears. Now, that's the reference to, the family that owns it is called Berzado. Yeah. And so that's just a reference to the folks who work at eventually that's the name of the restaurant and the reference to the people who work there. So in the fourth season, what we see is that they're struggling to stay open. They have transformed this greasy spoon into a fine dining establishment, but the central chef at the heart of it has been trying so hard to be ambitious that it has been hard for people to really bond with the restaurant. And one of the criticisms of the restaurant is that the menu changes so much. And what these characters are sort of learning in the fourth season is they're trying to learn how to get out of their own way. And they're trying to figure out how to communicate better with each other. And they're starting to understand that some of their problems in life might be because they haven't quite figured out how to talk to the other people in their lives, and they haven't quite figured out what they want from life. And so there are some people for whom working for the restaurant is the key to making themselves better, but there are other people for whom working at the restaurant, even though it's what they're best at, may be slowly killing them or hurting them. And they have to decide what to do with that knowledge. And so this is a really interesting episode. They always have an episode where they delve into the life of one of the people who work at the restaurant. And there's a wonderful episode this season where Ayo Adebari's character, Sydney, we spend some time with her and her family, and we get to know a lot more about her. There's always a wonderful episode that features a lot of guest actors. So there's an episode where the ex-wife of one of the characters gets married, and we have these wonderful, sort of guest appearances by John Mulaney and Bob Odenkirk and Brie Larson and Jamie Lee Curtis is always amazing. She plays the mother of the chef. So I think it's a really great season. Not as good as the first two seasons, and I understand why some people are disappointed. And some people in the industry, frankly, are a little irritated with the fact that FX is calling this a comedy.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Really, it makes no sense at all.
For the Emmy category.
For the Emmy category, particularly when they
I have been
decided to define
disillusioning
it.
poor Andrea Cabral around the Emmys situation here before the show. That I hated to tell her that sometimes people get nominees because people don't like them, and that's another challenge.
It's always a likability contest, right? But one of the things when they first sort of defined the show for the Emmys, it would have been easier for the show to compete in the comedy category. There was less competition there. Mm-hmm. And since the show is often funny, they decided to define it as a comedy. But I've gotten into, friendly arguments with my friends at FX where I've insisted, the show's best moments are dramatic ones. Mm-hmm. And so I really do think it is a drama that is often funny rather than a comedy that is often dramatic. But we have a lot of shows out there that ride that fine line. Another popular comedy, Hacks on Max,
my favorite,
is the same way. It is often funny, and I think it's more of a comedy, but
because it's about comedy, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's about comedy, but that doesn't mean it has to be a comedy. Mm-hmm. There have been great dramas about comedy.
Right.
If you see the movie Punchline, for example. Mm-hmm. But I do think that is more comedy. They are trying to be funny all the time. But still, there are a lot of dramatic moments in that show too. And again, critics kind of feel like the best moments in Hacks are dramatic moments. Mm-hmm. And so, that affects how people see the show. And it makes it tough for us because, I vote for, the Critics' Choice Awards. I often help with Independent Spirit Awards and other awards ceremonies. I vote in other things. And it's hard for us to kind of figure out as critics, the Television Critics Association Awards, I vote there. Is this a comedy? Is it a drama? Should we accept what the producers say it is, or should we as critics or voters redefine it because it makes more sense to us to call it a comedy? So at any rate, I think with The Bear, people were a little disappointed with last season, which is, because of how they released The Bear, all the Emmy nominations were for last year's episodes, not this year's episodes. So I think people were disappointed with that season. And I also think people in the industry have gotten a little irritated that FX keeps calling it a comedy when so many people think it is not.
So, Eric, we left this till the end so that you and I would not talk about this for the entire segment.
This is all you and Sue because I'm I know of Star Trek, I respect it, but I'm not a Trekkie.
We got another Trekkie?
Yeah,
another Trekkie
my
here.
Goodness. Yes, indeed. So, Strange New Worlds.
I'm a black Trekkie, so I call myself a blackie.
That's pretty good.
So, Star Trek Strange New World Season 3 on Paramount premieres. And, you know, I have found Picard and Strange New Worlds to be a little uneven, but I still find them to be the two best new offerings from the Trek universe. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, although I think Strange New Worlds has been much more consistent than Picard was. And one of the things with Picard, okay, so Paramount Plus has funded all these new Star Trek series. And they did 3 episodes of a show focused on Patrick Stewart's Jean-Luc Picard. And when Patrick Stewart started doing the show, he was adamant about it not being a retread of Next Generation and them not using that many Next Generation characters. And so for 2 seasons, he resisted what the fans wanted, which is to see the whole band get back together
But then
again.
there was a poker game. You can't have a poker game without them.
Exactly. So they got a showrunner in the 3rd season who talked Patrick Stewart into bringing all the old characters back, and it became the show's most successful season. But I think it also showed that when Star Trek leans into its long-standing successes, when it doesn't run from what it did well, when it reflects new versions of what it's always done well, that's when the shows do best. And so Star Trek Strange New Worlds is the series, the new Trek series, that is most like the original series. They have some storylines that go over multiple episodes, but they often have a new adventure every week. It's about this family of folks who run the Starship Enterprise going out to boldly go where no one has gone. No one has gone before. Now, no man. They don't say that anymore. And it's focused on the people who ran the Enterprise before William Shatner's character, James T. Kirk, took command of the Enterprise. So you have Anson Mount playing Captain Christopher Pike. This is a character we've seen in other Star Trek movies, but for the first time, we really get to know him in a series, and Anson does a wonderful job. I got to meet and interview several of the cast members and producers at the Tribeca Film Festival a few weeks ago, and I think they've done a good job of updating Trek. But and you'll see in this new season, it's just started to air, you will see that there are some old characters from the original season that they revamp and modernize for today's times. And it's going to be, I think the episode that comes out next week is going to blow a lot of people's minds.
All right, we'll leave it
Thank you,
Eric.
Live long and prosper.
There you go. Good job, Andrea. Good job. Eric Deggans.
I wish I could do the hand thing.
I can't do it either. It's really been a disappointment in my life. Eric Deggans is a TV critic for NPR and the Knight Chair in Journalism and Media Ethics at Washington and Lee University. His book is Race Baiter, How the Media Wields Dangerous Words to Divide a Nation. You can find him on Substack, ericdeggans.substack.com. Coming up after this quick break, there's just enough time left for our Two More Things segment. I'm Sue O'Connell. She's Andrea Cabral. We are in for Jim and Margery, and you're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, streaming shows dominate the Emmy nominations with HBO Max at the top. Superman rules at the box office and stirs cultural debate. Forget old-fashioned music fakers. Artificial intelligence is now making the band. It's our pop culture roundtable. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Mass General Brigham. Their leading heart and vascular specialists are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart. And the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum with Ming Fei, Edge of the Garden, a profound and playful exhibition filled with sculptures of oversized fruits and hybrid plants, opening June 26th. More at gardnermuseum.org.
Welcome back to BPR. I'm former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. I'm here with NBC 10 Boston's Sue O'Connell. We're in for Jim and Margery, and we're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. It is now time for our Two More Things segment, where we cram in two more topics before the 1 o'clock news. Sue, what is your thing today?
Love Island USA, which I have accidentally become completely addicted to. And have full disclosure, it's on Peacock, our streaming service. I accidentally watched one episode with my daughter. It's on it's concluded, and we have the winners of Love Island USA, Amaya and Brian. Brian is from Everett. That's very exciting. We're going to see them both around here. You have a bunch of young people under the age of 30, over the age of 21, who move into a luxury villa in Fiji, and then they have to fall in love, find a partner. If they're single, they're in danger. It's on almost every single night. You can't stop watching it. I have been completely captivated, and now I'm going to have to go back and watch the former seasons, because you have Love Island Great Britain, Love Island Australia. I think that's all I'm going to be doing all summer, Andrea. That's it, watching Love Island.
And all I'm going to be doing all summer is consciously avoiding Love Island, all the Bachelorette shows, all of the Real Housewife shows.
Yeah, this is
I
Big
can't
Brother.
handle them. I stopped watching after The Real World. That's when I stopped watching reality TV.
Because these are like our friends, and you're rooting for them, you're not liking them. And then if you watch it with a family member, like I do with my daughter, which is a little uncomfortable from time to time, but the character it's not a character, it's the actual human, but the person I disliked the most, she said, was most like me.
But none of this is real. These are all people who
real
know
people.
that they're actual human beings.
Don't
and that
fight
they
me
are
on this, Andrea.
flesh and blood. But they're not. They know they're being filmed. They
Don't
know
fight
they're
me.
on television. They're characters.
Yeah, but after a while you forget you're on. When the real drama starts. All right,
So
what's your
that's-
thing? What's your thing?
No, my thing is avoiding your thing. Seriously, that is my thing. My thing is avoiding your thing.
You don't like any of these, like Bravo, Housewives? What do you want? What's your mindless television stream? However you do it. What's the mindless thing that you do?
Oh no, my television diet is largely vampires, zombies, murder, serial killers, superheroes. So I veer from the incredibly real, horrible, criminal type stuff to the complete fantasy myth kind of stuff. There's not a lot of in between for me, except for stuff like The Bear and the character-driven pieces.
Yeah, when did you stop watching The Real World?
After the second season. I was totally annoyed by all of them.
Do you think part of it is that your career choice of public safety might be you just don't want to see these people?
Oh no, we're all going to die. I think that every single day. That's absolutely what's happening.
Right. So
everything is one of the 7 signs of the apocalypse. Yeah.
All right, so no Love Island for you.
No.
No.
I don't do the whole, kind of getting away from reality by going to reality programming.
Right,
Yeah.
but you're watching, kill, die.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that's actually happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm befuddled by this. I'm surprised.
But I listen. I respect your choice in viewership.
It wasn't a choice. It happened to me. I'm a victim
I respect
here.
your addiction, and I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoy Love Island.
All right. Well, luckily we're out of time, so I can't continue about Love Island anymore. But after the 1 o'clock news, Jeffrey Thielman and Nazia Jamal from the International Institute for New England will join us. Again, I'm NBC Boston Sue O'Connell. She's former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. We're in for Jim and Margery, and you're listening to us on BPR on 89.7 GBH. We're live at the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming over at the YouTube at youtube.com/GBH News. Stay with us.
Federal funding for public media has been eliminated. While GBH is evaluating the impact of these cuts, we're as committed as ever to our mission and to you. Help protect GBH by giving now, online at gbhnews.org.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And South Coast Artists, presenting its 22nd annual Open Studio Tour July 19th and 20th in Tiverton and Little Compton, Rhode Island, and Dartmouth and Westport, Massachusetts. You can download the tour brochure at southcoastartists.org. And Cornerstone at Canton, an assisted living community with services designed to help seniors age in place, offering respite and trial stay options to help during recovery or when exploring new living arrangements. More at cornerstonecanton.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Andrea Cabral in for Margery Egan. Ahead on hour number 3 of BPR, live from the Boston Public Library. When Kabul fell to the Taliban in 2021, Nazia Jamal could no longer work in her dream profession, that of a teacher. She's now here in the U.S. as a refugee. We'll talk with her about what it's like during this moment in the U.S. and with Jeff Thielman from the International Institute of New England, which offers support to refugees and immigrants.
And I'm Sue O'Connell in for Jim Browdy. Then we're going to end the week on a lighter note. Step aside, cigarettes. Diet soda is the latest cool vice, apparently. Are you a Diet Coke fanatic? I am. Does Diet soda quench your thirst for the sweet and fizzy, or are you a full sugar purist? Diet Coke, Coke Zero, and you. Pop a can and call us next on BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Public media stations are waking up to a new reality. The House of Representatives voted late in the night to pull back $1.1 billion in spending on public broadcasting over the next 2 years. As NPR's David Folkenflik reports, the move, taken solely with Republican votes, means Congress has severed bonds stretching back more than 5 decades.
The federal money typically provides 1 or 2% of NPR's funds, but 10% for public radio stations and 15% for PBS and public TV stations. Conservatives have sought to strip away funding for public media before, claiming it shows liberal bias. President Trump targeted public broadcasting as part of a larger assault on the media and made it a test of loyalty for him. Public broadcasting officials had promised to fight to the end, but won over just 2 GOP lawmakers in the House late Thursday night. Executives say some stations may consolidate or be forced to close, especially in rural areas. Others foresee cuts. For now, expect pitches seeking financial support. David Folkenflik, NPR News.
In all, the rescissions package totals around $9 billion in cuts, a majority of which was slated for foreign aid. The administration is defending its record on food aid after destroying 500 metric tons of high-energy biscuits that had expired in an overseas warehouse. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports State Department officials say the expired food aid was a tiny fraction of what the U.S. gives each year.
Democratic lawmakers have been blasting the State Department over the expired food aid that was intended for children in Afghanistan and Pakistan. The Deputy Secretary of State for Management called it a casualty of the shutdown of USAID and said he was distressed that the food went to waste. But State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce says it was relatively a small amount.
When you are moving 1 million metric tons of food around the world every year, for 1% to be the factor that has to get destroyed is a remarkable record.
She says the U.S. remains the largest provider of food aid, adding, quote, "We will not be lectured about this." Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
The tech company NVIDIA now has a go-ahead to sell its most advanced semiconductor chips in China. Here's NPR's Emily Fang.
The U.S. put successive layers of export controls on NVIDIA to stop it from selling some of its chips to China on national security grounds. Yet this week, after months of lobbying the U.S. and China, NVIDIA said it would get approval from the U.S. to sell what are called H20 semiconductors to China, its highest-end chip. China said the move was, quote, on the right path. This apparent reversal comes after NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang met again with President Trump earlier this month.
That's NPR's Emily Fang reporting. U.S. stocks are mixed this hour with the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 158 points at last check. You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. We have an update on a story that we broadcast yesterday. The Bristol County District Attorney says it wrongly reported the death of a 10th person as a result of Sunday's fire at the Gabriel House Assisted Living Facility in Fall River. The DA says that 66-year-old Brenda Cropper remains hospitalized. She's in critical condition. Yesterday, the office reported incorrectly, and so did we, that Cropper had died of her injuries. The DA says that the error was due to a miscommunication with a medical agency. In Massachusetts, Governor Maura Healey calling for an end to the worker strike that has impacted trash collection in more than a dozen cities and towns in the state. Union workers at Republic Services walked off the job on July 1st, citing an impasse in negotiations for better wages and pay. 6 communities that contract with Republic for trash pickup have filed a complaint in state court. They're seeking an injunction saying the uncollected garbage is now becoming a public health concern. Governor Healey called on Republic to reach a fair deal with its workers.
You know, residents can't handle this any longer. Our cities and towns can't handle it any longer. It's a public safety issue. Republic's got to get back to the negotiating table, negotiate a deal.
Republic and the Teamsters, the union representing the workers, are scheduled to meet with a mediator today. In sports, Red Sox start the second half of the season in Chicago with a series with the Cubs. That game starts at 2:20 this afternoon. And we are at 78 degrees on a beautiful, beautiful day in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Welcome back to hour number 3 of BPR. I'm Sue O'Connell, Andrea Cabral. We're in for Jim and Margery, and we're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
We talk a lot on this show about the cruelty behind Trump's immigration actions around the country, his executive orders, the funding cuts. Another aspect of his policies is the fear that they're causing among refugee communities. When Kabul fell to the Taliban in 2021, Nazia Jamal could no longer work in her dream profession, which was that of a school teacher, educating the next generation of Afghanistan. She fled Afghanistan, arriving in Boston last year as a refugee. She joins us at the BPL desk along with Jeffrey Thielman. He's CEO and president of the International Institute of New England, one of the largest regional nonprofits working to protect immigrant rights and resettle refugees. Nazia, welcome. And thank you to both you and Jeff for joining us today.
Thank you.
So much. Jeff, I just want to start with you for a little bit and just talk a little bit about what the International Institute of New England does, just for our listeners to have a basis. Back in the 1970s, my mom worked for the UMass Extension Service, and she worked really closely with Cambodian and Vietnamese refugees and immigrants moving into the Revere area, helping them get acclimated. In those days, you couldn't walk into a supermarket and have a variety of foods, so she would take them places to find foods that they could best match what they did. What does your institute do?
Your mom may have worked with the International Institute, so we've been around for over 100 years. We were founded by a group of women at the YWCA here in Boston in 1924. That was a period of a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment. And the women said, let's welcome people to Boston and help them to integrate. So we serve refugees, we serve people who are seeking or have received asylum in this country, unaccompanied children who cross the southern border on their own and need support, humanitarian parolees. Thousands of people who came from Haiti, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela are in our services. Last year we served about 21,000 people, and our services range from resettlement to case management to English classes, legal services, job training, and job placement. The whole range of services to help people integrate into the United States.
So before we get to Nazia, talk a little bit about how the International Institute is responding, I'd say, versus reacting, but responding to the current climate, both financial, cultural. What are you doing?
So our message, or my message to our team, is that the most important thing we can do is to keep doing our work every day. By showing up, by teaching English, by doing case management, by helping people find places to live, by helping them to find jobs, we're doing the most important thing to fight back against the rhetoric and the policies of the current administration. The most important thing is to keep working. So we're still doing that. At the same time, we have a lot of nervous people that are in our organization. We have people that are anxious about their jobs because of federal funding cuts that are looming. We have people that have lost their status who work for us. About half of our staff are people who have a lived experience of migration. They're immigrants to the United States, and some of those folks have fallen out of status because of different policies of the Trump administration that have been upheld by the Supreme Court of the United States. So we have a lot of nervousness, but also I remind people every day, and remind myself that we're privileged to be in the fight. We're privileged to be right in the work every single day, serving immigrants and refugees who want to be in the United States of America, who are following the rules and want to do the right thing to be good citizens of our country.
And can I just ask, how are you empowering the people who work for you, but also the people that you serve, to have the courage to sort of stay visible and to stay working toward this? Because that's, the fear we're going to talk with Nazia about in a second. It's driving people to hide.
It is not easy because, it also depends on your status. For example, if you were a Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan entrant to the United States, that's a special program set up by President Biden. People lawfully admitted to the country, signed in, vetted before they came here. Those folks are now out of status by an order of the Department of Homeland Security, which was upheld by the Supreme Court. We have people that we've helped get TPS, who are soon to lose their status, and temporary protected status, who are soon to lose their status. So we have a lot of people who are very anxious. What happens when there's an ICE raid? What happens when they're worried? They don't go to the medical, they don't go to doctor's appointments. They don't send their children to school. They get to work later, they don't go at all because they're trying to avoid a possible ICE detention situation. And so we have a lot of very nervous people. Those nervous people are calling our staff every day. Some of our staff are in a similar situation, or they may have a loved one in a similar situation. So there's a lot of anxiety, and so we do our best, I think, in management to try to support people, try to tell them we're on our side, and also to point out that the American people are on their side. It's only 35% of the public right now that supports what Donald Trump is doing.
According to Gallup's latest poll,
right.
Just last week.
I bring that up all the time. Now, that doesn't mean much if you're living in fear in Brockton or in Lynn or wherever we've placed people, or in Lowell, where we have a big office and a big operation. It doesn't really help you to say, here's what the polls are saying, folks, especially if it comes from a guy like me who was born in this country. But those are the facts. I think things are turning around. At the same time, people are very, very nervous, and we're doing our best to reassure them. We have trained them in their rights. We've done a lot of rights training of folks. We are trying to find ways to get people food when they need it, because some people are just afraid to go out of the house. And we're trying to encourage people to keep going to work and to keep sending their kids to school and to go to the doctor's appointments and medical appointments that we have set up for them, because we don't want them to become unhealthy.
Nazia, you are here in the United States through a refugee program. You are here legally. We should point out, I'm always trying to explain to people how many people are here legally. Can you share with us, as much as you feel comfortable with, your story, how you're here, what you hope to accomplish, who you've left behind, and who you hope will be here?
So I left my home on December 3rd, 2023, and I went to Kabul. I was there for 14 days with my dad in a hotel, and on December 17th, I left my country and I went to Pakistan, and I was alone there, and my dad was not with me anymore. So I was in Pakistan for 3 days, and then on December 20th, I went to Qatar. We were evacuated by CARE, and then I was there for 28 or 29 days, and then I moved to the US. I arrived here on January 18, that I was greeted by IINE on the airport. So the thing that made me move and leave my country, my family, and my students behind was to be safe, to save my life, and to reduce a little bit the worries and the stress that my family has about me. So the job that I had, I was working I started teaching before in an early age, but I started formally with an American organization. After Taliban took over the country, it was stopped, and we didn't work for a while, and then we resumed our services that were English and computer classes for adults. So I was teaching online, and I was teaching women mostly, because the schools were closed, universities were closed. There was like a small hope that we could do for them, to offer those classes for them. So to seek for a better life, to a safer life, I moved, and I left my whole family and everything, and I came with a suitcase.
You know, Jeff, we've been talking a lot today about the USAID, and hearing some calls come in about folks being upset about our support of other countries. In this case, I mean, we went into Afghanistan. We weren't invited in, right? We went in, we made a bunch of promises.
For decades.
And longest time, and we leave, and the promises are broken. And here we are in this chaos right now in the United States. You would think we would prioritize taking care of the people that we made promises to, no?
Absolutely. I mean, we were there for 20 years. Our organization has resettled many people like Nazia, who either worked alongside the U.S. government, U.S. troops, or were in a program funded by the United States government, which was part of our program over there. The idea was to empower women, was to make a more egalitarian society, we committed. And people committed to work with us. And people work with our troops who are not able to get out of Afghanistan, they're not able to get here, and they're unsafe right now. And that is totally and completely wrong. All the conversations that have taken place about USAID largely has helped millions of people, if not billions of people around the world. It's helped our prestige around the world. It's helped make us a stronger nation all around the world. It's a good thing. And it's also connected us to the world. And, if you look at Nazia speaks a number of different languages, reads a number of different languages. She's very, very talented. We need this kind of talent. We're lucky to have this kind of talent in the United States, and it's a sad thing for Afghanistan that this level of talent, Nazia's talent, is no longer there, teaching women and girls to help them to be educated and advance in society there.
I used to talk about humanitarian issues and empathy and compassion, and I gave that up, and now I talk about, I still care about it, I've given it up, but now when I talk to people about immigration, is this not exactly the type of United States citizen that we would want to have in our country?
Absolutely.
The people who are able to overcome fear and pain and persevere and go through incredible personal danger, leave their families behind, come to our country. Imagine what she can do in this country, for the United States. And again, Afghanistan's lost, no doubt about it. Do you find that people have I just can't understand why folks don't say, I don't want to get up off the couch if something is happening outside. She went through an incredibly traumatic, and the bravery that she has displayed. Is there anything more American than that?
No, there's nothing more American than that. In fact, it keeps me going every day. There are days when I look at the news, or I get an email from our national office that isn't very promising or hopeful and happy, and I say, I just don't have time to feel bad for myself, because we have people like Nazia who've overcome great obstacles to get here. And that gives you perspective. And one of the things that keeps us going, at least keeps me going, is the fact that our clients want to keep going, and they've overcome incredible obstacles to get to the United States, whether you came in through the southern border or you came into Logan Airport. So, I think that one thing that people forget is the powerful economic impact of immigrants and refugees, especially on this state, but on the entire country. 21% of our workforce is foreign-born in this Commonwealth. Immigrants and refugees create businesses at a greater rate than native-born Americans. All of our biotech industries in Massachusetts are led by or have significant leadership from people who were born outside the United States. We would not have the economy we have in this region without people born outside the United States, like Nazia.
And they pay billions and billions of dollars in taxes every single year without any of the benefits that regular taxpayers pay.
That's right.
Sue, I fear that there's nothing in 2025, there's nothing more American than begrudging someone like Nadia the opportunity to come to this country. And that's very, very, very sad. So, Nazia, and again, to the extent that you feel comfortable talking about this, what happens now? It's now illegal to teach. Once again, it is illegal to teach and to do what you were doing in Afghanistan and to teach women. What becomes of all of your students, do you think?
When I was teaching online, I had like 3 classes a day, and it was like a one-hour class. And the day that I told them that I'm leaving and I might not be able to be with you anymore, one of the reasons was the office policy that if we move out of the country, we cannot work with that organization anymore. Most of my students were crying because that 1-hour class was not only just teaching English, but I was trying to give them hope, to motivate them, and to make them believe in their power, to make them believe in themselves that darkness wouldn't last forever. And it might be today or tomorrow or someday in the future, but a change will absolutely come. The way that everything flipped over and everything changed in one night, we are hoping that that change would happen again and they would have their freedom again. I'm still in contact with them and I'm talking, but the very sad thing is that that organization is not working anymore. It was stopped and it is not working anymore. And that little hope that I was giving them, it was given from them away. And they are not having those classes. They are texting me sometimes and I'm talking to them and they are still worried, what should we do? And still, sometimes I think that I'm giving them a false hope and nothing is changing. 4 years has passed and nothing has changed. And from 2021 till now, it has been a long time. It's easy to say 4 years, but for them who were in Afghanistan, it was super hard. Every day was like a year. And every day when you go out, you are feeling like something bad is going to happen. Although they had hijab, they had everything. They're not going to school, okay. And don't go to university, okay. But now, don't go out. When they are going out, they are arrested by the Taliban. So when someone is leaving their country, they have no choice than leaving everything behind.
And what is that? So you still maintain some connection. What is 2 things? What response are you getting to when you tell your story here in the United States? Does any of that response give you additional hope? I know working with Jeff and the International Institute gives you hope, but are you getting any sort of a response when you tell your story in the United States that makes you think we will get past that darkness? And also in terms of your family, because you have other family that are in different stages of coming here or staying here. How are you handling all of that?
It's super hard. It has been almost 2 years, 1.5 years that I'm here, but still I have that pain like the day that I arrived here. But still I am hopeful. I am hoping to improve more, to do more for my family, to make them happy, to at least, if I can't help them move out of the country, I have to do something to make them proud of me. And to give them, to say at least, to make them feel that at least one of their children is safe. And I am hoping that my brother would join me. He was working in Afghan Air Force, and he was a major there. And after he was threatened by the Taliban, he had to leave the country. And now he is in Azerbaijan, and we have applied for him special immigration visa, but it didn't work. And I could contact with any organization or something that could help, and the only answer that we were receiving was wait. How long? But after January, that wait became like a hopeless thing. Right. So it's like an empty word that has nothing to do. So I still hoping that I could improve more, of course, and I could make my family proud of me, and I am a little bit hopeful of my brother to join me and to live a better life, and he deserves to live without stress, to live without worries.
I'm sure they're proud of you. I just met you, and I'm enormously impressed and
As are
proud
some
of you.
of our texters
Yes.
and our
listeners.
yes.
Our audience.
Jeff, what can we leave folks with here? You know, I mean, it's always surprising to me, this nation of immigrants, that we don't understand immigration. I did recently on TikTok an explainer of immigration, legal immigration terms, and people were arguing with me. I'm like, this is the government's designation. The United States government is designating an asylum seeker as legal. Refugees are different from asylum seekers, protected status, and they just can't understand it. What can you leave us with as some optimism and a little task to do?
So I think most Americans want, and most people that I speak with of all different political persuasions, want an immigration system that is fair, that is well managed, and that leaves them okay. And okay means I'm economically okay, I'm safe and secure. And I think that is the responsibility of the Congress and the president, and that has not happened. And so our job, I think, is to keep saying to people, you've got to pass immigration reform that makes this system more sensible, because it is not working well at all, and it leaves people behind who should be in the United States. And then the second thing is, if you look around and you think about your own heritage, if people reflect on their own background, where they came from, somebody took a risk to come to the United States of America in most of our families, not everyone. They took a risk. They got on a plane, they got on a boat, they came here, and they started over. And they created a family that has led to great things. And so I think if people reflect on that a little bit, things can turn around. And the final thing is just speak to your neighbors and say to neighbors and friends, well, I don't like what I'm seeing out there. I don't like these crazy ICE arrests. I don't like the fact that immigrants who are paying taxes, working hard, are terrorized and afraid to go to school and work. I think if you say that more and you say that to more people, that kind of movement, talking to people and friends and neighbors, can change things. And finally, let's remember Nazia. I mean, Nazia is a hero to me. Nazia and other people like Nazia are heroes. They have overcome incredible odds. They have left behind difficult situations back home. Nazia was a heroine back home, teaching English to people, women who wanted to learn English, and she's a hero to me and to many others here in the United States.
And for God's sakes, vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Figure it out and vote.
And I would discourage people from looking into how their family came here the right way, because oftentimes the right way was not actually the legal way. So on that high horse of do it the right way, and you're doing it the right way.
Part of my family came from Italy in the early 1900s. I don't know if they did it the right way, the wrong way. I don't know if they had. I don't know what they.
Or if there was a way.
There might not have been a way. So nobody knows. Nobody knows.
But the country's founded on getting here and building the country once you get here and contributing, and that's all that should matter to people.
Correct.
All right. If people want more information, where can they go?
They can go to IINE.org and learn more about us.
Well, we are so appreciative of you sharing your story
Thank
with
you,
us,
Nadia.
Nazia. Thank you. Jeffrey Thielman, CEO and President of the International Institute of New England, an educator, advocate, and refugee and hero, Nazia Jamal, thank you for being here so much. All right, stay tuned for this, because this is I know this is important, but this next segment is very important. We're going to be talking about Diet Coke, okay? So stay tuned. We're going to have a little something lighter for you. The phone lines are going to be open. The text lines are open. What's your relationship with Diet Coke? You can call or text. I'm NBC 10 Sue O'Connell. She's former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. We're in for Jim and Margery. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, and we are live from the BPL, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Rolfe. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, the Bristol County DA says it wrongly reported the death of another person in Sunday's fire at a Fall River assisted living facility. And on this week's Joy Beat, hope, empowerment, access, and love. That's what the HEAL Collaborative is all about. It started when a small town's only grocery store closed its doors, and people took action. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, helping families overcome the college planning stress. Committed to providing trusted guidance with calculators, step-by-step videos, and more. Details at mefa.org. And the Museum of Printing in Haverhill, preserving the history of graphic communication from typewriters and presses to computers and copiers. Their expanded exhibit of rare and historic Bibles is now on view. More at museumofprinting.org.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me.
Oh, man. Okay, so Coke, I guess as they've been telling us for these many years, Coke is the real thing. Just about as real as the smell of burnt toast that you might notice after 20 years of drinking it nonstop. Welcome back to BPR. I'm former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. She's NBC 10 Boston's Sue O'Connell. We're in for Jim and Margery. We're broadcasting live from the Boston.com/GBH News. So, for the end of the day, here's what we've decided to talk about: Diet Coke and you. The phone and the text lines are open, 877-301-8970. New research finds that whenever you say new research, you know what's coming after that is going to be terrible. Finds that a sweetener found in most diet sodas may impact the blood vessels in your brain, thereby increasing your risk of a stroke. Unfortunately, it's going to take more than a little fact-based research to claw America back from its Diet Coke addiction, which with TikTok has all but eclipsed America's former go-to habits of smoking on airplanes and paying attention to the news. 877-301-8970 is the number to call or text. What is your relationship with diet soda? Are you someone who's got a full reserve in the fridge? Can you see yourself transitioning to water? Yuck. Or is it simply too late for you? And if you have thoughts you'd like to share on other soda-related issues, including Trump's latest push to put real cane sugar back in Coke without including the word Mexican, now's your chance. Again, the number to reach us is 877-301-8970. You can call or text. Oh,
there it is.
She
Diet Coke,
stuff.
baby.
Oh my goodness! I cannot believe how much of this you drink.
Me
Oh,
and
did
Bill
somebody actually brought me a Diet Coke?
homie. They say
I actually
homie on
don't
them.
drink it.
That's
I
okay.
really don't drink. I'll
So,
give it to Sue because
Here's
Sue will
my
drink
challenge. Here's my challenge, Andrew. So I drank Tab in the 1970s. Didn't love it, but I drank it anyway, and then began drinking the Diet Coke. Avoided the Coke Zero, the new Coke. Those of you who may remember Bill Cosby's big pitch of the new Coke, we should have known then. And then we have moved to the Diet Coke. And I, until about 5 years ago, would drink more Diet Coke than Bill Clinton and Donald Trump combined. It's the one thing I have in common with Donald Trump, except for the fake tan and the fake hair, is the Diet Coke. And I have to say I have cut back dramatically. There are 3 things I cannot, actually there's 4, I just remembered. 4 things I cannot keep in my house because I will eat or drink them. Chocolate chip cookies from Chips Ahoy, hot dogs, bologna, and Diet Coke. So we are here with the lovely Diet Coke, and apparently may not be good for you. Some studies have shown that your body can't tell the difference between the pretend sugar and the good sugar, so there's no actual caloric or sugar benefit from drinking it. I just think that it's Diet Coke is a tough addictive substance.
Well, you are not alone because our texters, Matt in Rhode Island, says that his blood type is Diet Coke. Mm-hmm. So I think Matt is definitely in the same arena that you're in. Peter on the North Shore says that he gave up soda as part of a larger change to a healthier lifestyle, but when he did drink soda, he chose diabetes over cancer. The ingredients in diet soda are linked, he says, to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and cancer, and it tricks your body into gaining weight because, as you just so ably pointed out, your body does not distinguish between pure cane sugar and the artificial kind.
Yes, but you know what? The taste of it is what is so compelling to me. People.
So what distinguishes it? I mean, I prefer Pepsi to Diet Coke.
Yes.
But why is it that people prefer Diet Coke to all others?
It's got this high metallic impact on the back of your palate up at the top,
That does not sound appetizing.
Well, I mean, lots of things are hard to drink. A lot of liquor is hard to drink. No baby picks up a glass of scotch and just drinks it.
Not
that I know of. But, and Diet Coke just really is a nice balance, especially if you are eating bad foods like junk foods, like, hamburgers and cheeseburgers and fried chicken, and then this is just such a nice balance to it. And I think it also has just become kind of a comfort food for me. Like, it's a reward for me. Like, I've been working hard today. This is a reward. I'm having this free Diet Coke that GBH, is not your tax dollars, so don't worry about it, has funded also 1/2 can of this is how much your tax dollars are to actually supply the funding to
And it
PBS.
says homie on the side.
It does. But I'm not alone on this. So let's go to the phones.
All right.
Jody from Canton is calling us. Jody, how do you feel about your diet soda, and is it Diet Coke?
It is Diet Coke, and I love you guys. I am addicted. I drink it all day, literally all day. Like, I don't drink anything else. I fill up my Yeti with ice, and I just keep, like, pouring it in. And my doctor is, like, trying to get me to get off of it. And my mom sends me articles. And my family and my husband's a doctor, so he yells at me.
So, Jody, are you otherwise healthy? Are you otherwise like healthy eater?
Yes, I eat healthy. I'm everything in moderation, but I'm a pretty healthy person, and it's my one vice. Like, I just can't seem to get off of it, and there's something about it. The Pepsi is too sweet. The Diet Coke has like an acidic. It like burns.
See, I'm telling you.
In a good way. In a good way.
So, are you concerned? Are you concerned now about like so the headline on the story is, from the New York Times is "Go ahead, have another fridge cigarette."
That's what they're calling
which
them.
really kind of 2 Sundays ago, the woman had chips and a fridge cigarette, which means she's eating cancerous, choosing a Diet Coke and feeling good that she's not having a cigarette. Is this catching your attention? Do you think?
No, I mean, I know it's bad. Like, I know, and with all the articles, and I have tried to cut back. It's really hard.
Well, I guess it's the erythritol that's killing people, right? So it's the artificial or that's presenting the health risk that's killing people.
Right.
But Jody, do you see it as an addiction or just something that you really enjoy doing?
I'm addicted.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's an addiction. It is.
We should have all said, "Hi, Jody," like she was going to like an AA or an AA meeting.
I have a problem.
Jody, how do you feel about when you go into like a McDonald's or a Burger King and do you not drink the soda fountain soda, or how do you like it? Do you like it in a can? Oh, it's all Diet Coke, right? No matter how it comes.
All Diet Coke, yeah. I do like a can better because it's colder. There's something about it that's better.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah,
I get a little picky though. I get a little picky about the soda fountain Diet Cokes if I'm going to have one. But I also tend to, I don't drink a lot of alcohol, so this ends up being, if I'm going out, this is what I drink instead of alcohol. So I always think, okay, it's not water, it's Diet Coke, but it's also not a Scotch. So that's progress, right? Andrea's looking at me like...
No, it might kill you, but it won't be because you drove drunk.
That's true.
Yeah,
all right.
So it doesn't matter.
Jody, good luck on your journey.
Thank you, Jody.
We appreciate you sharing, and we hear you. So there you go.
Caitlin from South Boston says she's 24 years old. She's been drinking Diet Coke since she was young. It's incredibly addicting. She said she's managed to limit her consumption to a couple per week over the years, but it's still hard to resist. So all of this begs the question, what would happen? Tell us what would happen if you stopped.
Well, I have cut down dramatically. I just can't buy it. I can't keep it in the house, and I have to make sure that I'm being very disciplined about not drinking it if it is in the house. So the can is my favorite. This Diet Coke cold in a can. So we have it at home because folks have issues and it helps with nausea and that sort of stuff. So I'll buy it in the bottle and keep it warm, because that way it's too many barriers for me to actually go and get it. But I mean, I've gone weeks, months without drinking it, but then I see it. I mean, you know how excited I was this morning when we started talking about Diet Coke?
Yeah, I was actually alarmed by that.
A little worried about it, yeah. See, I'm not alone on this. Let's talk to Kevin in Templeton. Kevin, thank you for calling.
Hello, ladies. Great to talk to both of you. All I have to say about
Kevin, turn down your radio. You got to turn down your radio. You okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have my radio on.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Keep going.
All right. No, I'm just calling to say that, we all deserve a little bit of advice in life. Of all the health problems and all the problems we have and all the legitimate crises we have in this country, we all deserve a little glass of Diet Coke or Coke Zero or what have you. And with all the problems with, friends dying of opiate addictions and people not getting vaccinated and alcoholism, I think we can all enjoy as much Diet Coke as we want and not really worry about these on and off studies that just keep rotating through whether or not it's good or bad for you. Let's just enjoy these little bits of life while we have time.
Kevin, I think the Coca-Cola people would like to talk to you about a commercial. Because, listen, that would be a very simple way for them to get past, all of this bad publicity, is just kind of say, listen, life is hard, have a Coke. It's just basically that, right?
Yeah, what I love too about colas in general, I don't know if this happens in the ginger ale world, but if you're in a restaurant and you say, I'll have a Diet Coke, and they say, is Diet Pepsi okay? And I actually have to go, no, it's not. And I'm like, I would eat almost anything anywhere, but when it comes to my cola, it has to be correct. So there you go. All right, here's a nice, here's a texter. How fooled are we as a nation? Quote, oh, I'm a healthy person, end quote. Swollen feet man in the White House says, and then, quote, I drink 5 Diet Cokes a day, end quote. I like there's few things I have in common with Donald Trump. The Diet Coke situation is one of them.
But I think the point is well taken that everybody has, vices, and that, whether you call this particular thing a vice. I mean, it's always funny to me when you watch old TV or old movies and you see people smoking on airplanes, smoking in theaters. Doctors, there's scenes in Ben Casey and these old, the doctors are smoking, talking to their patients, coughing, So I guess, we trade one for the other. Mm-hmm. I'm in some respects, I'm kind of with Kevin on the go ahead and drink it. If it's not one thing that's going to kill you, it's going to be another.
All right, let's go to Christopher from Westfield. Hello, Christopher. Welcome to Boston Public Radio.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Christopher.
Long time. Love BPR.
Great. What's on your mind?
So, I actually can't stand Diet Coke for one main reason. Diet Coke is the diet formulation of New Coke. Mm-hmm. Remember New Coke back in the 80s,
indeed.
that disaster?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Diet Coke is the diet formulation of New Coke, which is why it tastes nothing like Coke Classic. It's Coke Zero that actually is the diet version of the Coke original taste, and that's why Coke Zero tastes more like Coke than Diet Coke.
You're absolutely right. So here's the deal, Christopher. I did not like Coca-Cola. I liked Dr. Pepper when I was a young person.
Sweeter.
Right, like Dr. Pepper. And I drank Tab, which I didn't love. But and I didn't like the New Coke, and I don't like Coke Zero. I only like Diet Coke. And I don't drink it because there's no calories or sugar in it. I just drink it because I like it.
Sure.
I drank Tab in law school.
But a lot of that is also marketing. A lot of it is marketing is because Tab and Diet Coke, Coca-Cola found, were primarily drank by women, and a lot of men were eschewing Diet Coke because they thought it was too feminine, which is why Coke Zero has like the black masculine branding. They were targeting men.
We actually have a texter right now who is affirming that, saying, this is Chris from Boston saying this, Diet Coke is the gay soda of choice. We used to joke about it as the NYC gay diet to lose weight. Coke, Diet Coke, and cigarettes.
Yep.
No, I got through law school on Tab, which is rot gut, quite frankly. Tab and cigarettes. That's it. That's all I did.
I know.
Jennifer in Rhode Island said, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I forgot to thank Christopher for his call.
Thank you,
Christopher.
Thanks.
Jennifer in Rhode Island says there's nothing like an ice cold can of Diet Coke. The term fridge cigarette is absolutely perfect. She agrees that the same holds for Chips Ahoy, neither of which can be in her house.
And Donna on the road has texted us, I stopped drinking Diet Coke many years ago, and the only time I crave it is when I have pizza. That's the whole thing. And of course, the famous Donald Trump quote from 2012, I have never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke. Again, he's right, because if he looked in the mirror, he would know as he drinks his 5 Diet Cokes.
Right.
Not fat-shaming in any way, shape, or form, just acknowledging what we see. All right, Kelly in Wilmington, what is new with you in the Diet Coke world? I love this. Is like
Hi, Kelly.
This is going to be like a new podcast, I think. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks for taking my call. Love listening. I quit drinking Diet Coke in 2009, and it was harder to quit Diet Coke than it was to quit alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so take us through this. Tell us what happened when you quit, what you felt like, and why it was so difficult.
I don't know why it was more difficult to quit soda, because it's around you all the time. When alcohol is only when you go somewhere that has alcohol. But the taste was so addictive. And, I didn't want Diet Pepsi. I wanted Diet Coke. And I think they purposely manufacture these drinks so that you become addicted to them. They make them taste special.
We're having a hard time hearing you, Kelly, but I think I can affirm and agree that it is everywhere too. So some of the things that we all go through this. You're trying to give something up,
right? And suddenly everybody's
doing it, and it is the choice. But I wonder if there's just something about the Diet Coke. You know who knows the Coca-Cola recipe? Of course,
who?
Deval Patrick.
Does he really?
Yes,
that's right, because he worked.
We should call him. Let's call him right now and see if he could tell us anything about Diet Coke. Yeah, so I think there's something particularly about the Coca-Cola recipe that just makes it a little bit more sticky. I mean, what was in it originally?
But listen, you kind of can't complain about anything that this particular soda company puts into their soda. They started off by putting actual cocaine in it. So after actual cocaine, anything they put in it, you're on notice for the Coca-Cola company.
Yeah.
But what I will say
Those are the
is
days.
It probably has something to do with the way your blood sugar spikes, the particular ingredients in the soda, and the way your blood sugar or your body reacts to it, as to why some people find it so highly addicting and others don't. Same things for drugs and alcohol, predispositions to things like that.
And the caffeine, we're not even talking about the caffeine in it.
But the difference is that they don't have to have a warning on any of these cans or bottles that say that you might become addicted, unlike cigarettes and other things.
That sounds like a Jim Browdy thing, right? We should put a warning on a Diet Coke can.
Well, I am sitting in for Jim Browdy.
Good
I figured
point.
I should channel him at least once.
All right, Deborah from Cambridge. Deborah, welcome. What's on your mind regarding Diet? Welcome to Diet Coke Chat on BPR. How are you, Deborah? Tell us your Diet Coke story.
I am well. My association with... Oh, no, I'm getting terrible feedback. I'm on my cell phone.
Okay, we can hear you fine now.
You can?
Yep.
Okay. So my relationship with Coke products started in college, where my breakfast of choice was a Coke and a glazed donut. Ooh. And then as I went to work, I was working in a very high-stress job, and I drank at least 5 cans of Coke a day. Now, I have to say that I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I never could drink anything with a lot of sugar in it. But that wasn't really a consideration. I loved the taste of it, and it helped me get through my very stressful days. Once I retired, I was a vow to stop drinking so much Diet Coke. So now I'm down to 1 mini 7.5-ounce can a day. And I'm sliding down the slippery slope back to more Diet Coke. But I love it. I'll never give it up.
All right, Deborah. We want to remind people we're talking about this because studies have indicated there may be a connection between an ingredient in Diet Coke that could impair brain vessels, and some are calling it a fridge cigarette. Just want to have the public health reminder there.
Factor.
Yeah. An anonymous texter says, I only drink Diet Coke when listening to the Village People. We're just keeping that gay connection going on, or the MAGA connection. See, we're bringing people together,
Absolutely.
Right? Village People bring people together. Tab will actually take the rust off your trailer.
No, that's true. Tab is not good. I don't care what anybody says, but I used to drink it by like the liter bottle.
Mm-hmm. Another anonymous texter, looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue and Diet Coke. Of course, an airplane reference there. That's coming back. And then someone asking about Diet Pepsi. Notice no one's calling in about the Diet Pepsi.
No one is calling in about. And our crew has sent us a 2011. I never saw this ad. A 2011 Dr. Pepper 10 ad. Dr. Pepper had a version called Dr. Pepper 10, where they clearly were trying to market to men. And the ad has Dr. Pepper 10, just the soda in a glass. It's not for women. I don't remember that at all. And then another ad that just said 10 manly calories. I mean, that didn't work out for them at all. I don't even remember this campaign. Yeah. And most people don't even drink Dr. Pepper.
I'll tell you, whenever you put gender on items, it's always very exciting.
Very risky.
Let's talk to Sue in Jamaica Plain. Hello, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Welcome to Diet Coke Chat on GBH.
Tell us your experience.
Well, my experience, let me turn my radio down. My experience is that I drank Diet Coke out of style for about 30 years, and I had a headache all the time, a stomach ache all the time, and it never occurred to me that was the why. But things finally stopped drinking it. I had a ruptured.
We're having a hard time, Sue.
What happened when you finally, say that again, what happened when you finally started drinking it? Can't hear.
Yeah, we have a bad connection, so I'm sorry. But we will imagine that you felt better after you stopped drinking it. I'm going to make that leap right there. I sometimes drink it when I have a headache, and it helps the headache go away. But that might just be the caffeine.
And the sugar.
And the sugar.
Well,
the pretend
if your
sugar.
blood pressure is low,
Yeah.
the pretend sugar. Allie from Harvard. Hi, Allie.
Hi, how are you guys? Before I get into the Diet Coke thing, I want to tell you, the guest you had on before this segment, awesome. Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, glad you enjoyed that.
That's what's happening. So, what is it? I've been drinking Coke since I was a little kid, okay? I'm now almost 60. And it's just, I switched probably maybe 20 years ago, or I don't know, 15 years ago, Coke Zero, because they went, when McLaren doing like Coke, Diet Cokes and that, I think they had about 3 different formulas they tried. So when they got to Coke Zero, it was a thumbs up. And I think, like, to have AA, they should have a CA, because I can't take it. It's just, I don't know.
I'll tell you that, Allie, thanks for calling. We've really hit upon this. I know that this was surprising, but this is.
Who knew that there was all of this? I guess you did.
I did.
Because I don't really drink it a lot.
Anonymous texter wants to know if the Diet Coke button in the Oval Office is the only. It says the Diet Coke button in the Oval Office is the only policy I agree with. Indeed, Donald Trump has a button he can push for more Diet Coke when he wants them. This person is very nice. They want to know, I'm an influencer. You know, you can follow me at Sue NBC Boston on all the socials. Will I get a lifetime supply of Diet Coke from this segment? I'm not allowed to accept gifts, but I do, please, I would understand if I decided to go on a different route and just be an influencer and be on Love Island. With Andrea, that would be great. We could get all kinds of good stuff right there.
Jay from JP is feeling nostalgic. He says he got off Diet Coke in 1999 at the strong urging of his best friend. He's glad now that he's off it, but he says, I used to love hot buttered popcorn with a Diet Coke while watching a movie in a theater. It was pure bliss.
Yeah, it's a great. And
it is about memory too.
It is.
The tastes that evoke particular memories have a lot to do with it, and you chase that. That's why it's probably part of the reason why you keep drinking it.
All right, Maureen and Nita. Maureen, welcome to Boston Public Radio's Diet Coke Chat. What's on your mind?
Hi, thanks. I actually don't drink any kind of Coke, Diet, or regular Coke. But when I was a kid in the 1960s, we didn't really have Coke or soda or tonic, as we called it, in the house.
Tonic.
But, occasionally, I'm talking probably a couple of times a year, my father would get food shopping. Coke came in the bottles in an 8-pack, not a 6-pack. So I was the youngest of 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy. So everybody was allowed 2 Cokes for the week. So anyway, I had my 1 Coke, and then later on in the week, I'd go to check, and I'm like, oh, good, I still have a Coke left. And I would check, and the little carton that it came in would be empty because my older and only brother helped himself to my Coke. So he had 3 Cokes that week, and I had 1. And when you're the youngest, you pretty much get kind of screwed, basically. And but anyway, I don't drink any Coke at all. I only had it once a few years ago, and I didn't have any caffeine. I had a wicked headache. So I had a Coke, and that really helped it.
I'll tell you.
But I'll bet you reminded your brother long after you stopped drinking Coke.
Reminded? She's talking about it right now.
Reminded him of all the times he took your Coke. Those things you don't forget.
All right, Maureen, thanks so much for calling. Breaking news, we have a special caller right now to our Boston Public Radio Diet Coke Chat. Who is this, please? Julia Kayam? Juliet, did we lose her?
She's probably drinking Diet Coke.
She's drinking Diet Coke right now.
You know what? I can see that Juliet drinks Diet Coke. That totally tracks.
All right, let's try again. Juliet Kayam, thank you for calling Diet Coke on Boston Public Radio. Welcome.
It's the most important thing. I couldn't resist. I also got a text that you guys were talking my language. But hi, both of you. You sound great. And I'm just saying that just ignore the haters. I carry a bottle cap of Diet Coke almost everywhere I go. It is by far the best liquid available.
Are you at all concerned, Juliet, about the recent?
I have looked at. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sure you've already. I know you've already read them.
I did because people were getting mad at me, but they all say may.
Right.
They're all like could. Right. It could do this. It could do that. Well, so could driving. I'm just saying. You know, I have to say, I'm a runner, and sometimes the only thing that gets me through a run is ending in Central Square and going to the 7-Eleven and getting a big gulp of Diet Coke.
All right, how many Diet Cokes?
It's a look.
How many Diet Cokes do you drink a day, Julia Kayam?
4.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel?
No, it's more than 4. She paused before the 4. It's definitely between 6 and 10.
But I can't see anyone. I don't want to be judged.
I hear you. Do you feel an affinity with Donald Trump and Bill Clinton around their Diet Coke drinkage and your Diet Coke? Do you feel this is a place we can all join together?
I do, and I feel like, every once in a while I have to approve of something the president has done, and I feel like this button that he has to have immediate Diet Coke brought to him is probably his best policy contribution to the United States, in my opinion.
All right, Julia Kayam, thank you so much for joining us on our Diet Coke chat on
seriously.
BPR. Look forward to our podcast. Thanks so much to all the callers and the texters. Who knew, right? Look who's here.
Right.
Edward B. Herwick III.
Hello, Edward. How are you?
Good. How are you? How is everybody? Are we all coked?
We're all coked up.
All Diet Coke.
Do
you drink Diet Coke?
All right. No.
Okay.
Polar Seltzer all the way.
No, I got one of those too.
Polar Seltzer.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm a Polar Seltzer person.
Yes, Polar Seltzer all the way.
I am a total
let's
Polar
keep it
Seltzer
local.
person.
I'm good.
Also, I'm surprised at all this talk. You would think that our president might have an affinity for Royal Crown Cola, RC, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that sort of
Hail
feels
to the
like,
king, right?
Feels like maybe the way it should. Diet Right, which was their diet thing, that beat everybody to the market in terms of Diet Colas, I think.
It's a wealth of information here. All
Not
right.
that I'm a cola historian, but I think that's true.
Apparently you are.
Diet Right.
Culture
Do you remember
shows-
Diet Right?
And then down south
there
there was a Diet Right cola, and they put peanuts in it.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yeah, because the salt and the sugar. Yeah, absolutely.
They make that in Georgia, although I guess they make Coca-Cola in Georgia too, right? That's
right.
in Atlanta.
You can't get a Pepsi in Atlanta if your life depended on it.
That's
All right,
okay,
the
though.
Culture Show's coming up. What's
Culture
on the
Show
Culture
is coming up. Well, it's our week in review, so we're going to be We're obviously going to talk a little bit about what's happening with public broadcasting, which I know you did as well, but we're going to look at Emmy nominations, which came out this week, and also a couple of amazing auctions, which included the very first ever Birkin bag was auctioned off, as was Rosebud, the old sled. Rosebud.
I didn't even know that was still around.
Yes.
It almost wasn't. Kind of a cool backstory there. You're going to have to tune in.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Andrea, great to see you. I'm Sue O'Connell. Thanks for listening. Keep up with us 24/7 with the podcast. Check out the TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Jim and Margery are back on Tuesday. Monday, Andrea's hosting with Boston Globe columnist Shirley Leung. They're going to speak with Amherst College Ilan Stavans, Dr. Catherine Gergen Barnett from Boston Medical Center, Princeton's Khalil Gibram Muhammad, and someone named Sue O'Connell. I think that's me. I'll be weighing in maybe at that point about the CEO at the Coldplay concert. We'll see. Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Aiden Connolly, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. The engineer is John the Claw Parker. Jamie Bologna is our executive producer. Special thanks to everyone at the BPL, Maddie Gear, Patrick Lally, Angelica Mario, and Juan Jose Cadena, and to our fabulous hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe and our friends over at the Lenox Hotel. The Culture Show is up next. Andrea, it has been such a fun time.
It has been a fun time.
Good to see you.
And just so that we're clear, you're Sue O'Connell.
You're, who?
Andrea Cabral.
That's right. You did it right. All right. Stay tuned for The Culture Show. I'm Sue O'Connell, Andrea Cabral. Have a great weekend. We'll all be back in some form on Monday. Enjoy your Diet Coke.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And MIT Federal Credit Union, providing personal loan options to help consolidate debt, fund home improvements, and more. Applications at mitfcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA. Wondering what's cooking this weekend? The better question is, what's not cooking? Catch all your favorite culinary shows, starting tomorrow morning with Movable Feast at 10:30 and continuing all afternoon on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. This is The Culture Show. Coming up today, this week, the future of public broadcasting was debated on the Hill.
You don't need to gut the entire corporation for public broadcasting.
If you want to watch left-wing propaganda, turn on MSNBC. But the taxpayers should not be forced to subsidize it. I urge a no vote on this amendment.
In the face of more funding cuts, we look at what's next for public radio and television. And speaking of television, the Emmy nominations are out, with Severance, the mind-bending sci-fi workplace thriller, leading the pack.
Hello, my name is Mark S. I give consent to sever my memories between my work life and my personal life.
And look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a cultural controversy.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions.
My actions? I stopped a war.
We look at how the summer blockbuster, Superman, is getting blowback among right-wing critics for being super woke.
I did not like this movie at all. Every man in this movie is weak and he cries.
James Gunn is not the kind of guy who's going to put an American flag in his front yard during 4th of July. And that's the kind of guy you need to be to create Superman.
From there, who is Alex Trebek? The Canadian-born game show host is an American hero. That's according to President Trump, who is including Trebek in his National Garden of American Heroes. The 250 statues will also honor other notables, including Alfred Hitchcock, Billie Holiday, and Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass is an example of somebody who's done an amazing job and is being recognized more and more, I notice.
Finally, we head to the auction house. Last week, the original Birkin bag sold for more than $10 million at Sotheby's. Stay tuned to find out who was the unlucky underbidder.
There's probably a no more obnoxious or coveted status symbol than the Hermes Birkin. They're handcrafted in France by an elusive cabal of craftsmen trained in centuries-old equestrian trade techniques. The rub is, you can't simply walk into an Hermes boutique and buy one. You've got to play the Hermes game.
We take on that and more right now on our Arts and Culture Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Welcome to The Culture Show. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Callie Crossley.
I'm Lisa Simmons.
And we are here for our Week in Review. Lisa Simmons, of course, is the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Festival and a Culture Show contributor. Callie Crossley, one of our wonderful co-hosts. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with our review with Congress stripping $1 billion plus from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This is part of a $9 billion recession package. So this is what happened last night. The House passed the Senate version. So this is kind of the final hurdle along the way, other than the president's signature, to claw back $9 billion in money that Congress had allocated largely to foreign aid organizations, and then $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And so there you have it. It's a done deal. This is monies that would have been that were sort of allocated for Congress over a two-year period that are now coming back or not going out.
Not going out. So it's going to mean necessarily that several smaller stations around the country, mostly in rural areas, or areas where there is really not much local news, will go away. For the larger stations like GBH, it'll mean some serious rejiggering and figuring out where there will be some cuts to programming, and that's the bottom line. For those who are our fans and supporters, they're quite upset about it, as they should be. For a long time, we had pretty much a strong bipartisan support in Congress, because there were people representing those areas that lacked an access to information, and they stood up strongly. And then there were others who, liked the programming, and that was that. But increasingly, there is an overriding thought, at least among the Republicans that voted pretty much as a block, with the exception of two, who say that the content on NPR and PBS is biased. And so there you have it.
I mean, the crazy thing about this is that a lot of them who did vote for it said, we understand the importance of NPR and PBS and public broadcasting, but, we're going to be talking about this today. It's just this constant pressure from the president and using language about, how it's like, how PBS is woke, and it's not. It's so true, Callie, what you're saying about rural communities and other communities that use this as their only means of information. And I'm not talking necessarily about news. I'm talking about, like, if there's a flood, if there's, for tornado alerts and things like that, and that's how they're getting their information. So it's so short-sighted, and it's true. I mean, GBH, other big, PBS stations are going to be able to weather the storm in a way, but it's really these other places and tribal reservations. This is the only way they get their information.
Let's hear a little bit from some of the folks who were involved in this vote. As Callie, as you mentioned, this is largely along political lines, though in this case we're going to hear from Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, who was one of the Republicans who was a little bit speaking out a little bit more in favor of keeping the funding in place. And then we'll also hear from Republican Senator Ted Cruz. Let's take a listen.
If you don't like what's going on within NPR, you think that there's too much bias there, we can address that, but you don't need to gut the entire Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
If you want to watch left-wing propaganda, turn on MSNBC. But the taxpayers should not be forced to subsidize it. I urge a no vote on this amendment.
So there you have it. I mean, I think one thing I would say, no matter how you fall on this, whether you think that taxpayer money ought to be going to PBS, I don't think that saying that PBS and MSNBC are the same type of station is fair. PBS is not. There is news on PBS, but there's a lot of other stuff that is not on PBS. So comparing news channel, I think, kind of misses the point. I mean, obviously, nobody knows what's going to happen. There's a lot of worries about what the downstream effect is going to be on the public media system. We will keep an eye on this.
Exactly. And that should be emphasized. We don't know what's going to happen because it's never happened before.
It's never happened before.
Never happened before. Okay. Well, while we're busy celebrating the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution in London, theatergoers are reenacting the January 6th attacks on the U.S. Capitol. So there's a play there titled Fight for America, and I think play will put in quotes because it's essentially an interactive game. It's a role-playing game that they have, and the way it works is they've set up a 1/64th scale model of the U.S. Capitol. They have roughly 7,000 figurines, which they've hand-painted into a red team and a blue team, and the blue team are police who are protecting the Capitol. The red team are the folks who tried to get into and did get into the Capitol on January 6th. And when you go to participate in this play or this game, you are given a role on one of the teams, and these are roles that are real people who were really involved in this thing. And then just like you would with a role-playing game, there's a series of dice rolls, and you get cards, and if you're on the red team, you're trying to get into the Capitol, and if you're on the blue team, you're trying to keep the red team out. This is an amazing and fascinating thing that's happening, and it's happening right now in London.
And so a couple of things. They had intended to premiere it in the United States, but after the election of President Trump, the re-election of President Trump, they said, let's start in London first. The second thing to know is that the model and all the figurines is precise. They went to such effort, as one of the producers or creators were saying, that just to know where a truck was placed, they made sure it was exactly where it was, looking at all of the films and the photographs and all of that. So attention to detail is key here. And then there's a vote. So you can get to the end of the game, and then the participants can vote. Should we hang Pence, as many people ask, or meaning Vice President Mike Pence? I mean, it's bizarre, and it's just reading about it, it's very uncomfortable. And yet they say the point of it is not really to gameplay, it's really to provoke a thoughtful conversation.
Right, and a thoughtful conversation about that you need to participate in democracy. And the interesting thing about that vote is that in the 24 London performances, I guess that ran from like the 6th or something to the 18th of July, 18 voted to hang Pence and 6 voted to save him. That to me is jarring, and that's pretty scary. I mean, I think, it's interesting, too, that the designer, Cavatore, who did this, is also known for Warhammer 40,000. I don't know if you know the Warhammer game. It's the same thing. Tons of little figurines. You go, and you can play against other people. So I think it's really interesting to take that concept and build this huge capital and have people, I mean, it's a huge thing that people have to actually enter this space and actually play. I mean, I do think it's an important, it's like using art as a way to have conversation, right? And I think that's sort of what he says. He wants it to spark self-reflection and about political polarization and really whether you go with the mob mentality or not, right? And people were shocked. People were shocked at oh my gosh, I actually went this way.
Then they crucially, and I think this is an important piece of this. So the game plays out, and I don't think we have to worry about a spoiler alert unless if you're going to London to see this, plug your ears up now. But then what happens at the end, once the decision is made around Pence, and a lot of people were not expecting this actual footage, about 10 minutes of actual footage from what happened on January 6th comes up on the screens in the venue, and you're sitting there watching it, and you're handed a card that tells you the fate of the character you were playing. When I say character, again, these are real people.
Yes.
So, you have some of these players who were saying, I was kind of into it and it was fun, and I was a little surprised at myself for Pence to be hung, but then they get handed this card and they're like, oh my gosh, my character went to jail for a while, or other people are
died,
my character died. Yeah. And so you see this it's this moment where it's really bringing home the reality of it.
And I think that's perfect. That's a perfect way to use this in a way to have this dialogue. I like this one woman said, it's footage from the end that got me. She said, who voted to save Pence. She said, I forgot that it was the real thing.
Well, here's the shoe drop is that they're bringing it to America in January on the anniversary.
Let's see if that happens.
So they say. I mean, that's the plan.
That's the plan.
Do we? Okay. I mean, how do we feel? Do we feel like it is in? Do we feel like it's in poor taste? Is it a too soon situation? I mean, I find myself going, wow, I'm fascinated by this. It feels urgent and interesting, but then I'm also like, I don't know. These are these are real people that you're sort of I don't know.
Well, I don't think of. I know they're describing it as a game. I know it's set up as a game. I guess I don't think of it as a game.
Yeah.
And then I'm reminded that in schools around the country, including probably right here in Cambridge, over at the Kennedy School, there are quote unquote war games. Which are employed so that folks can learn how to interact in certain scenarios that they're likely to come up with. So it kind of reminds me of that. That's real life work that people who are in leadership and military are looking at very closely because those will be real people they're dealing with, real deaths possibly, all of that. So I don't know. but it also is at risk, as you know. Our president likes to sue because I don't know what charges, but maybe he would. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I think it's not. I think it's timely. I think that especially the interactive aspect of it is really important. When you're like Callie, what you said is like when you're in it, when you're actually participating in it, then you are going to remember it more. That it's going to draw all sorts of inferences and everything. So I don't think it's poor timing. I think it's actually good. I think we can't forget this because the more that we can keep January 6th on people's minds, the more important it is for this country.
Okay, well, another take on American values, President Trump's National Garden of American Heroes. So, again, we were talking about budget stuff, and in that big, beautiful bill recently passed, is the money to build this sculpture garden, which is going to be populated with 250 statues depicting notable activists, politicians, pop culture figures, masters of innovation. It's a pretty eclectic list of 250 heroes, American heroes. What do we make of this? And I wonder if there's a particular hero that caught your eye in this current list of 250 American heroes. By the way, I don't think we even still know where this actual, kind of Hall of American Heroes or Garden of American Heroes.
He wants it to be near Mount Rushmore because that's where he wants to be.
Suggestion.
Yeah,
that's a suggestion.
There is one. I think there's one congressperson who is saying we ought to put it. There's a mine company, right? A mining company that said we'll donate the land, but of course, I think there are indigenous Americans in that area that are like no, not on that land.
Yeah.
Like so
exactly.
But we've got 250. Who caught your eye, Callie?
My eye. Well, first of all, the mix of people is weird.
Yes.
So my assessment is he just had a few people he liked, and he threw them in there. And somebody else made this list up. Why do I know that? Because Barbara Jordan is one of his lists. Barbara Jordan, for people who don't know, is the first African American to be elected to Congress from the Confederacy since Reconstruction. She's from Texas. That's the other thing. Huge personality. She's best known for a speech she made during the impeachment hearings of Richard Nixon, and when she talked about the Constitution and her faith in it and what was the responsibility of Congress and the people. Okay, having said all that, she is an African-American woman who spoke strongly throughout her career about the very important division of the branches of government, that how important that was, that we cannot get confused and start blurring those lines. She spent a good part of her career heading the immigration committee to talk about the needs and of immigrants coming to this country and why this was important. And though she was not out, it is clear that she was gay.
Right.
So that's an odd choice
for him, for his heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much contradiction on this list.
I think it's important to note that, my understanding is essentially most of this list was decided, because this is an idea that's been around since the first time that Donald Trump was president. So most of this list had been put together years back, kind of before, the second administration, which has been, I think, a little bit more aggressive in its stance on some of this stuff. So just keep that in mind. But it's a strange list.
It is a very strange list. I mean, especially for me to have Harriet Tubman on that list when Harriet Tubman was erased from all federal websites, and like, who's Harriet Tubman, and then to have her be a hero, and then the other one for me was Katherine Johnson from Hidden Figures, the NASA mathematician. So African American woman, one of the first who was very instrumental in the moon landing and the lunar landing. And you just look at this list, and you have controversial figures like William Buckley, Antonio Scalia, of course, but then you have these people on here that he would never agree to. And so, but the interesting thing about this too is that it was supposed to happen in 2026. We know that's not going to happen. It's not supposed to happen until 2029. But the other thing is that the whole idea about using NEA and NEH money to sort of create this, we're all supposed to feel great because they're creating an artistic sculpture with that money.
To me, the biggest head scratcher is Alex Trebek, who I love. But like, it's strange to me that he's included in the American.
Why?
Number one, he's Canadian. and actually, I
think you would stop there.
There are 37. There are 37 people in this 250 who were not born in the United States of America. Now, some of them are the historic figures, right? And who were born elsewhere and then came to America, or I think the Marquis de Lafayette, who you can understand as an American hero, even though he's French. But also, it is surprising that there are 37 people from 20 different countries included. But Alex Trebek, who, again, I love, but it's an American hero?
Well, because he helped us all research more stuff. he made us smarter. He made us smarter.
Well, one American hero, I think that we can... Oh, there he is.
Where?
That is
so soothing.
Is it? I
don't know.
It's kind of an ominous read
I'm like,
on
is
the
that
Superman
really the
theme
Superman
song.
theme?
I love it. Yeah, so Superman, new movie, new version of Superman is now out in theaters, and over the course of the time that it has been in theaters, it has, of course, sparked controversy among some conservative critics who are saying that Superman has become super woke.
Because James Gunn, who is the director, decided that he was going to bring out the human qualities of Superman, who, by the way, born on a different planet, in case you don't know the story, but is an adoptee here. And as James Gunn described him, this was really what set people off. He's an immigrant.
Right.
Well,
he is.
He is.
He's an alien.
From
an actual alien. From
He's
another
an actual
planet.
alien.
This is all true. Again, let's remind everybody, this is a fictional character that people are whipped up about.
What? Is it?
Yes, it is. But having said that, so he thought this is a way to, let's look at this story a little bit differently, put it contextually in the context of today, when there are all of the issues that we're talking about have come together. How would a Superman now today, in these times, operate? Well, according to James Gunn, he would have to bring empathy to it, because Superman is about right and wrong. That's what's supposed to happen. But he has to also deal with all this other stuff, which is what they deal with in the movie.
Let's hear a little bit about this particular version of Superman, and then, Lisa, we'll get your take. So this is a scene from the new Superman movie. This is the latest Superman movie, and in this we have Superman being interviewed by his colleague and girlfriend, Lois Lane, who is played by Rachel Brosnahan.
Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions. That's funny.
My actions? I stopped a war.
In effect, you illegally entered a country. You seemingly acting as a representative of the United States.
I wasn't representing anybody except for me.
Around the world.
And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die.
Yeah, so let's get out there and help people.
But that's controversial.
No, well, it shouldn't be. I mean, let's think about this. I mean, he's made it brighter, a brighter visual palette, right? Because I believe that James Gunn really believes that this is a new manifesto for DC, that we're going to be looking at how people are not using their power for bad, but using their power for good.
And this is
leading
DC
with
Comics, not Washington,
Oh,
DC.
sorry, not Washington,
Which,
DC.
honestly, I think we have to clarify in this climate, right?
We do have to clarify, but if we're talking about that, you're not going to actually make it. Yeah. So anyway, about an immigrant, we celebrate kindness. It sort of says a lot about those that are fighting against woke. It says a lot more about them than this new iteration of Superman. And we have to remember too that Superman first came out in 1938, right? And it was created by these Canadian artists who were from Jewish immigrant families. I mean, and it was the same thing, believing that humanity is innately good and honest, and that's who Superman. And we want Superman to be that.
So, but here's what I keep finding myself saying, and not to be reductionist about it, but you think about the Superman motto: truth, justice, and the American way. We are in a climate. There is no way Superman cannot be divisive right now, because we are in a time where we cannot agree on what is truth. We cannot agree on what is justice.
Right.
And we cannot agree on what is the American way. So if you have a figure whose whole thing is truth, justice, and the American way, it's going to be divisive no matter what you do right now.
All right, well, two things. First of all, we heard an excerpt from a person who'd seen the movie saying all of the men are weak. So this is also part of this whole drive in America now that if you show any kind of vulnerability and you're a man, you're some kind of weak guy. And there's a whole movement about that. I also want to just quote this podcaster, Jesse Kelly, who accused Gunn of being a communist.
Yes.
And Eric Metaxas, another person, said, I guess we're all skipping Superman. Go woke, go broke. Want to point out, not true. Superman is broken.
It's doing okay at the box
kinds of box office records.
Okay at the box office.
And will continue to do so, it looks like, for a while.
Leave it there for now. All right, coming up, major changes in the late night landscape with CBS canceling The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That is next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's art and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, the Bristol County DA says it wrongly reported the death of another person in Sunday's fire at a Fall River assisted living facility. And on this week's Joy Beat, hope, empowerment, access, and love. That's what the HEAL Collaborative is all about. It started when a small town's only grocery store closed its doors, and people took action. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Morningside Music Bridge, returning to Boston. The summer program shines a spotlight on young classical musicians from around the world, with concerts now through August 1st at New England Conservatory. mmb.international. And Subaru of New England. You can explore New England in the all-wheel drive 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid. Subaru retailer locations at subaruofnewengland.com.
Elevate your brand and support local journalism with a GBH sponsorship. Your custom sponsorship package can include audio, video, digital, and events. Learn more at gbh.org/sponsorship.
Breaking news, deep conversations, and the stories that matter to you. GBH News, always on the radio at 89.7, available on the GBH News YouTube channel and online at gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to The Culture Show, live from our studio at the Boston Public Library. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, along with co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes the Emmy nominations. Music nominations in the Emmys, and you just heard a little bit of the Emmy-nominated theme song from the Netflix hit The Residents. That one's by Mark Mothersbaugh, who I think we can say is a friend of the program and a member of Devo. As always, the nominations included snubs, surprises, and some snoozers. I think we're each gonna pick something that caught our eye, but before that, let's just talk about kind of some of the overall. First of all, the Emmys will happen August 14th. They're hosted by Nate Bargatze. We're going to do a special on the 15th. We'll, myself and Callie and Jared will kind of go into some detail about what happens at the Emmys. But for now, again, the streamers win big. Most of the nominations going to the streaming services yet again. HBO Max had 142. Netflix had 120. Apple TV Plus had 81 total nominations. The television, the actual television studio that had the most was Warner Brothers with 60. So streamers are they're ruling the roost.
They are. I can only pick out two network shows of note for me: Abbott Elementary and Matlock, that got some attention on the list. But for me, the surprise is not is Io Edeberry, who people may know from The Bear, who is an excellent actress.
Local.
And a breakout star on The Bear. no question that she was going to get a nomination, as she did again for her acting role. But she also got nominated as a director. She directed one of the episodes, and I believe that's her first time directing.
Yep.
So, wow.
That's excellent. Well, let's hear
and
a
to
little
get
bit.
nominated, she is a powerhouse.
Let's hear a little bit from Napkins, which is season 3 episode of The Bear, and this is the one that she directed. In this scene, Tina talks about her struggles with Mikey, Carmi's late brother, and the original owner of his restaurant.
I was there for 15 years at the place that fired me.
That's brutal.
And when I'm applying for all these jobs, it's all kids, right? They look like kids, but also beautiful, you know?
Why? How so?
They seem like hungry, you know? And I was thinking to myself, like, maybe I lost that in myself.
Yeah.
She's pulling good performances out there. Nice job.
I mean, I love the Emmys. I think that there's the reason why there's nothing for TV is because it's only like what is it, CSI shows and cop shows. Yeah, so we have to go to the stream. You have to go to the streaming. So I don't know if you guys have watched The Studio.
I have not yet watched The Studio. Had
if you're
a ton of nominations.
Film media, you've got to watch The Studio first of all. So I'm so glad that got
23 nominations
for
Studio,
that.
Yeah,
and The Residents, they didn't move it forward. They Netflix canceled it, but it's still I think a great show. So Uzo Aduba is also I think nominated. But for me, Harrison Ford, because I love Harrison.
Yeah, this is wild. Harrison Ford,
83 years old. Well, he's never really been in this kind of show, but Shrinking, I don't know if you've seen Shrinking, but it's a hysterical show.
So what's the premise of Shrinking?
So the premise is it's a bunch of psychotherapists who have, and he runs the practice, and there's a bunch of them in the practice that are helping, and it's like a different way of doing psychotherapy. But they also, their lives also come together outside of the practice that they're in, and so it's just their relationships with each other, and then their relationships to their clients, and so it's really well written. Jason Segel, I think, is a lead writer on that and producer on that. But I mean, I just think about, he sent out these texts to his other 2 nominees that were so sweet, like, dude, can you believe this? And you go, girl. It's sort of like, you can tell that there's this atmosphere, and that he brings this atmosphere of, collaboration and collegiality to the work that he's doing on Shrinking. And
let's hear a little moment. Let's hear a little moment from the season 2 finale of Shrinking, and this is when Paul, played by Harrison Ford, reflects on his own mortality, as we all often do at a Thanksgiving dinner.
Most of you know that I'm here under duress. I don't really like being the center of attention. Sometimes it's hard not to feel sorry for myself. Poor me with my failed, fragile body. But then I look around this room and I say to myself, lucky guy. I'm a lucky guy.
And
wow, that's impactful.
And I think it's so authentic, right? Because I think he really feels that way about being on the show and being with folks and being able to be in this kind of space.
He's dipping into the regarding Henry times of his career. That's what that makes me think of. Yeah. All right. Yes. Well, for me, something that really caught my eye on this was the nomination for Trammell Thielman for the show Severance. He plays Mr. Milchek in Severance. And I'm a huge Severance fan. I love the show. If people haven't seen Severance, the broad stroke premise here is there's a chip that you can get put in your brain that severs your work life and your home life, so that when you're at work, you only remember being at work, and when you're at home, you only remember being at home. And of course, never the two shall meet, except for the whole show is about the two kind of trying to fight to meet. But Mr. Milchek, he works for the company. He's the performance this season, every episode this season, I was like, this guy better get an Emmy nomination because he is the best thing on television, and he did. So let's hear a little bit from Season 2, Episode 9 of Severance. This is Mr. Milchek, played by Trammell Thielman, standing up for himself against the opposing Lumen higher-up, Mr. Drummond.
This is your fault.
I have followed protocol, Mr. Drummond. But I thank you for your remonstration.
A needlessly complex word for a simple idea. Apologize for the word.
Sir?
Apologize for the word.
I apologize.
Shorter.
I'm sorry.
Again.
Mr. Drummond.
Again.
Devour feculence. It means eat shit, Mr. Drummond.
This show is crazy. It gets very
Crazy.
surreal
I
as
love
season 2 goes on in a really interesting way, and I am here for all of it.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to come back on. And then one other thing I forget
Yes.
anytime, Nathan Fiedler's The Rehearsal. I don't know if anyone has watched this one where he becomes he actually becomes an airline pilot. He actually became a pilot during this. That he won for directing and he won for writing. I mean, he didn't win. He got nominated for directing and
Okay, well, if you're going to squeeze one more in, it's got to be Kathy Bates, Matlock.
Oh, Matlock.
You love
yes.
it, huh? All
She
right.
is ruling.
So as much as on this show we find ourselves talking about the troubles in Hollywood and what's going on in the movie industry, television continues to deliver. But speaking of television, big television news last night, Stephen Colbert made this announcement.
Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
This is pretty big news. So coincidence, it comes just days after Colbert had criticized CBS's parent company, Paramount Global, who we've talked about a lot on this show. He criticized them for paying a $16 million settlement in a lawsuit filed by then presidential candidate Donald Trump, now again President Donald Trump. What do we make of this?
It's a both-and situation. Some people are saying that he was canceled because of his political commentary, which he's had a lot of. And as you pointed out, 3 days before the note of the cancellation, he said this was a, quote, big fat bribe, unquote. That's it. And so it seems very connected. However, the business at hand of late-night television is in bad shape. Just one stat. In 2023, $439 million in ad revenue. In 2024, half that, $220 million. So the networks were already trying to figure out what to do because all of their content is being viewed on in digital
YouTube,
spaces, but they're not monetizing that. That's the reason that last year they took a day away from Jimmy Fallon, so that there's 4 days of original and 1 day of repeat on his show. They're trying to figure out how to keep this format and make money, but it looks like they're fighting a losing battle. So this was an announcement that was going to be made. Now, could they have done it at a different time? But I think they got the cover of having bad financials play out in this moment, and they might as well go for it.
Right, exactly. Nothing like using something as the current moment.
Is it a surprise? I find myself a little surprised.
Well, it's surprised because it's the most popular show.
He is the most popular show. I am surprised because it is, like as transparency goes, like honestly, literally 2 days he comes back from vacation, but this is against the lawsuit, but I think the reality is that it's Sherry Redstone, right? Who he's really criticizing. And Summer Redstone has always said on his show, like, we're going to make sure that we're going to dumb down or be quiet about any controversies that we have about Trump. So we already know that they're in that space. They already know that they live in that space. So
they paid $16 million for a lawsuit that everybody says they could have easily won.
That they easily could have won. Okay. So I mean, I think that's important. So I don't know. Is it a dark chapter in
It's a changing time
network?
For sure, right? And I wonder, we were just talking about with the Emmys, right? Obviously, the future of television is in the digital spaces and with the streaming services. So you wonder if one of these streaming services is going to snap up.
I think he's going to. Absolutely. I think they're definitely going to do that. But it's true. It's like you don't have to stay awake to watch that in Net Live anymore. You can watch it the next day, and you can watch what you want to watch. You don't have to watch the whole thing.
When you want to watch, you don't have to watch it at night, right?
But I mean, it's interesting because Jon Stewart, also from The Daily Show, which is also owned by Paramount, said something also about the 60-minute interview. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen.
Do we imagine that there is, if you sort of squint your eyes, you can see also, maybe if Jon Stewart steps away, do they find their way back together on one of the streaming services in some way?
Well,
Jon
that
Stewart
would be
and Stephen
interesting. I don't know. I think that Stephen Colbert is going to come back in some kind of interesting way. Remember, he also fund some other shows.
Yes.
So he's been in constant production mode, thinking ahead, blah, blah, blah.
And I'm thinking too that he, on this show, he always was sort of like kept it a little, he didn't go all out. You could tell he was biting his tongue on. So now who knows what he's going to unleash?
Yeah, it's true. I think whatever he does next will be edgier and a little funnier. Would be my prediction. All right. Speaking of endings, Netflix announced the end of Queer Eyes at the end. 10th season. It's going to be its last. That announcement comes this week. Now, it premiered way back in 2003 on Bravo as Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. Then Netflix rebooted it years later as Queer Eye 10 years ago, and was on a mission to transition from a show that they saw in the beginning was about tolerance and then became more about acceptance. What a legacy.
What a legacy, and what its cultural impact will still be felt many, many years from now. And really, I don't know that we can access it all at this moment. I was listening to one of the cast members say that they didn't know they were making an emotional show. They thought they were making a comedy originally. And this premiered on Bravo. This is before Bravo was Bravo, so it was an experiment all the way around. The original cast thought this probably isn't going to work, but let's try it.
And they were everywhere when they exploded onto the scene.
And each of the individual cast members, both from the original cast members and the second cast now, are all individual successes on their own.
Absolutely.
Doing the things that they did on the show and other things. So they're very much embedded in our cultural fabric. They are real celebrities, not those fake ones.
Right. No. What on the reality?
Right. Exactly. And we can't forget that in this context right now, to have a show that features out gay men. It was revolutionary then, and to some extent still is.
Still is, and we're still talking. And to be in that space and still talking about that. I mean, one of the things I love about this show is that they weren't characters like you said, Callie. They were mentors. They were supporters. They helped people rebuild their lives. Right. I mean, they were. They talked about things about knowing being different in today's society and what does that mean. And I think that. It was launched the reboot was launched, I think, in 2018 when we were also in this polarizing world, right? And they sort of punched above that, and it was sort of like, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to help people move forward with their lives, and I think that's what they did. So I think they all are, you're right, cultural icons. I mean, they were joyful. It's sort of like going back to the Superman story, right? It's sort of like, let's bring joy into this world when there isn't any joy, or you can't find joy. We're going to be here to help you find that, and we're going to do it through clothing you, or we're going to do it through talking you through these things. And I think it's
not in a phoney way.
But not in a phony, totally authentic, in a totally authentic way.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, so in another talk about LGBTQ presence in the media landscape or representation. A little bit of controversy in that space in another sort of spot in the media world, and this is Chip Gaines and Joanna Gaines, who, if folks watch HGTV, they know who they are. They've built an absolute empire. They have a new show, which is called Back to the Frontier. So the idea here is it features families attempting to live life like homesteaders back in the 1880s. It's sort of a fun concept, one that's been out there before. But in this particular show, they have included a same-sex couple, and that is rattling some people in the conservative Christian world, which is their target world.
And they are, by their own description, Christians. So, in this world. So, as you've said, so for them, this is a big deal. In the past, people have come at them saying, the shows look a little too white. They look a little too, evangelistic Christian. What are you trying to do? And to be clear, they got their kickoff on HGTV, but their empire is now their own.
Magnolia Studios, they own it. Right.
So they own the network, they own the merchandising, they own a magazine that's very, very popular. So their outreach is huge. And they have a whole channel in which they can put whatever they want on it. This is just one show. So for them, this is a huge step because their response to the criticism was, we can read from the Bible too, and here's our response, is that you are to be gentle in responding and kind.
They've engaged.
What's your deal?
So let's hear a little bit from Matt Walsh. This is an American right-wing political commentator. He's a podcast host, and he discussed the gay couple on Back to the Frontier on his YouTube channel. He has 3.25 million subscribers, so what you would describe in this era as a real influencer. Let's hear what Matt Walsh had to say.
There's the problem. The 2 men and 2 kids. It's a gay male couple with 2 children. 2 boys specifically, because gay couples almost always seem to adopt boys. I mean, it's not something we're supposed to notice or ask any questions about. They certainly don't want you to think about that while you're watching Back to the Frontier, a show that might more rightly be called DEI on the Frontier. Although, of course, if this was actually true to life, the season would last about 5 minutes before everyone dies, because that's what would actually happen if you attempted to apply DEI principles to the American frontier.
What? Well, I don't understand. Okay.
So I find
Did he
myself
not see Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, well, but
Okay.
it's interesting because I think about these 2 things in the context that they are, right? And we talk about where the American public is largely in quote unquote acceptance of same-sex couples, right? And so with something like Queer Eye, which is a space that is about fashion and fun,
then it belongs there.
That is where
fine.
the gay men belong.
Yes.
It is fine for them to be there. But on the moment you try to bring that to the American frontier, there's
cowboys and horses
that's
and
a bridge
cows
too
and-
far for some people.
And it is. But I mean, so I think, as Callie was saying, I commend them for doing this and for pushing back and for saying I don't care. We might lose some viewers, or I might not be able to go to that Antioch community church that I went to, that we were going to, but we're going to stick to this because this is important. And they were talking about how visibility matters, that they want to lead with love, and love is all sorts of love. And so I think you're right. I think it's a major shift for them, but I commend them. I think it's great that they're doing that because they are a huge brand. They are larger than Martha Stewart, and all of these other folks that are entering into this space. And when you have that kind of power, to use that power to raise visibility of that might be problematic for you, I'm all in for that.
Yeah,
I'm all in for that.
I
They're
think it is
using
really
it for good.
interesting, as you point out, Callie, that, they've gone back at these people in this space with other quotes from the Bible, having the conversation and the debate about this inside of the world that these folks are purporting to say that they are defending. So I find that very interesting. All right, coming up, Going Gone, a piece of cinematic history, has been auctioned off for close to $15 million. That is a lot of dollars. That conversation is next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
A shipment of books meant for readers in Nairobi ended up at a bookstore in Copenhagen by mistake. The shop owner went with it.
Why shouldn't we take the opportunity to showcase books that reflected a different country, a different city, a different culture?
That novel switcheroo, next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Cornerstone at Canton, an assisted living community with services designed to help seniors age in place, offering respite and trial stay options to help during recovery or when exploring new living arrangements. More at cornerstonecanton.com. And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. And GM Roth Design Remodeling. Dreams delivered. With custom kitchens, bathrooms, and additions. Serving New England for over 39 years. Learn more at gmroth.com.
I'm Callie Crossley. All too often, a lot of very important news flies under the radar. Learn about the small stories before they become big headlines on my podcast, Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library. I am joined by co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. We're going over the latest headlines on our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes Firefest. Billy McFarland, once a consummate con man, has capitulated. He sold off the Fire Festival brand this week on the auction site eBay. It went for $245,300. Now, again, it's just the brand. There is no festival. There was the one disaster festival, and then they were saying there was going to be a second one, which never really materialized. Now the brand has been sold, $245,300. Somebody paid for it on eBay.
42 bidders. I'd like to know how the winner is going to capitalize on it. I think somebody's going to do something with it cleverly. Like, for one thing, they could actually have a festival, a real one, and maybe capitalize on it. But I got to say, this con man is still making money.
I know.
This just infuriates me.
But he owes $26 million in restitution.
I don't care.
What he said, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Did he ever serve those 6 years in prison?
He was in there about a minute.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
but
this is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and it is interesting to see why would you buy this brand that has so much negativity attached to it? So you're right.
According
you're
to the
going to have
eBay
to
listing,
think about.
According to the eBay listing, fire isn't just a name; it's a global attention engine.
Oh my God. Oh, okay.
Also, amazingly, eBay did not offer purchase protection on this. So on a lot of the stuff you get on eBay, there's purchase protection, and they noted there is no purchase protection.
Well, they got the social media accounts, they got the marketing assets. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what their next endeavor is for this.
Okay, well, let's stay at the auction house. Maybe something that is, at least to some people, you could argue of value. At least it's a physical item, and this is Rosebud, the famous sled from Citizen Kane. It sold for $14.75 million. That makes it the second most valuable piece of movie memorabilia ever sold, just behind Dorothy's ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz, which went for twice as much as that, which I think it makes sense. I mean, ruby slippers is a pretty good one to have. But, I mean, Rosebud.
I think this is about right for this piece of memorabilia. I mean, it's a classic movie with a director whose name is already in many history books. So
great beard, great cigar.
Yeah. So whoever got this is quite a get.
But I mean, it's amazing that someone just said, "Oh, we're cleaning out the studio, and we're just wondering whether or not you want this." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" Of course, I'm a fan of the movie, and I want it, and held on to it. I think what's really funny is
you're talking about Gremlins director Joe Dante.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Gremlins director.
He was doing the movie Explorers, which I loved as a kid.
Yeah, but I mean, it says Dante put the sled in Explorers, Gremlins 2, and an episode of Erie, Indiana. So I love that
he's been using it.
Yeah, he's just using it as a prop in all kinds. It's like the Wilhelm scream
of
exactly.
So
props.
Then all of a sudden it's like 14 million. Holy Toledo, that's amazing.
It is something.
So hold on to your stuff.
Hold on to your stuff. It is crazy though that they were just kind of cleaning it out, and they were like, "You want this?"
Well, yeah, I know.
He's like, "You mean Rosebud? Citizen Kane?" Yeah,
and he's
I'll
like,
take
"Yeah,
that.
this thing. We were just going to throw it away."
And now he's made some money on it, selling it
a little
off.
bit.
Okay, before we retire the gavel, the original Birkin bag was auctioned off last week at Sotheby's, selling for $10 million. A former Japanese soccer player managed to outbid, supposedly, Lauren Sanchez, a.k.a. Mrs. Bezos. If you're with us at the library, you can look up on the screens, or if you're streaming us, there it is. That's it. That's the original Birkin bag, the bag she sketched on
Jane Birkin.
That Jane Birkin sketched on a barf bag on an airplane. And said, "This is what I would like the bag to look like." And the folks at Hermes said, "Here it is."
And it's passed through a lot of hands, several private hands. She actually sold it in 1994 to help fund AIDS research, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so this is very interesting to me. Now, Lauren Bezos's folks say she did not bid on it, but other people say she did. And the fact that she could not win the bid at $10 million seems a little odd to me.
Seems a little odd to me. And what's her name? Kris Kardashian, I think, also was bidding on this at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
We still don't know who got it.
The bidding was live streamed. It went on for like 10 minutes. I guess there were 9 people.
There was like 13 minutes that people. And so you're right, exactly. So why are you stopping at $10 million if you really want that bag? Then why aren't you?
Why wouldn't she have a bid that says, just keep going until I get it?
Yeah, until I get it. So, I mean, I think that's really interesting. I mean, I do think that, so what someone was saying is that Sanchez may not have snagged the original Birkin, but there's whispering that the consolation prize could possibly be Vogue itself, because Vogue now that so this is that this is what that Dolce & Gabbana actually approved of her wedding cover shoot, and that behind doors that could possibly be that Condé Nast, although it's not up for sale yet, but that maybe $5 billion sale of Vogue could go to Mrs. Bezos.
Well, she's known as LB now,
Right, LB. Okay, LB. I'm sorry, I'm not up on that
I just want to keep y'all
vernacular.
up on the pop culture.
You, Callie, you're a fan of LB. Is
No,
that,
I
is
didn't
that
say
fair to say?
that. I did not say that.
Okay. All right. Well, that sound can only mean one thing. That means it is time for our lightning round. These are the stories that struck us this week. Lisa, what story struck you?
Okay, because I know I always have to come up with these stories about animals. So this story about
how did you get on? You're always.
I don't know, but because it fascinates me.
Do you
and this
have
story
animals?
I don't. I used to. Okay,
I read
I'm
about
doing
them.
my lightning round. So can an octopus appreciate art? So this is what we have to remember, and I want everyone to remember when you're ordering fried calamari when you go out to the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They are incredibly smart creatures, right? So here was this 31-year-old Japanese artist who said, hey, you know what? Octopus don't ever get to leave where they are. I'm going to take it on a tour of Tokyo before returning it to its safe haven. So he took this octopus on a tour, took it to the fish market, and seeing its friends,
its brethren, its cousins,
laying there waiting to be eaten. So he really wanted to create this more the human exhibit. So there's this exhibit that was in Spain in 2024 where he really talks about how octopuses actually go into these small ceramic things. He built sculptures for these octopus. They apparently, even though they're colorblind, they seem to go towards the color red. So there's this whole story around how this octopus is actually helping people think about art in a different way. And I say that because I don't know if you ever read the book Remarkably Bright Creatures. Callie, have you read that?
No, but I know Cy Montgomery.
Yes,
She's
exactly. Explores loneliness and grief and healing with an octopus that she comes into contact with at an aquarium. So I just think that's really interesting, and I think we have to think about octopus in a different way.
Okay. All right.
There you have it. Callie, top that.
This is about people who are just lost their minds. Please pay attention to the screen here so that you can see what crazy people thought was the wig that Tina Turner
Oh my
wore.
goodness.
Okay,
this
wait,
looks
let's
just.
back-
I'm going
let's
to give
back
you the
up here.
background. Okay. So if anybody knows, after Tina Turner sort of reinvented herself, the wig that she wore was spiky and edgy, and just sort of just went with the flow.
Yeah.
This is what they were selling on the website, but the Tina Turner website, for $1,000. It came down after 24 hours.
Wait,
Why?
$1,000?
$1,000. People lost their minds, and so they took it off after 24 hours.
Well, it looks like she had a press and curl.
It looks
doesn't look anything
ridiculous.
like Tina Turner's wig.
I mean,
It does not look anything
diminishes
like it.
the whole
It does.
thing about it. And they tried to make their excuse was, well, this is kind of what she wore, what she looked like before she went on stage.
No,
That did not happen.
before she started whipping her hair around.
Come on, y'all. This is just crazy.
That literally
So,
looks like a generic Halloween wig, right? It's just like
ridiculous.
a blonde curly wig. I think of hers as kind of
Yes,
straight
Well,
and
that's
spiky,
that's
a
the whole
right?
spiky-
thing.
yes,
but the
a
fact that
spiky
they say
thing.
this is what it looks like before
and that doesn't even look like what she looked like when she was with Ike, which was, very manicured
Yes.
kind of thing
Yeah.
back in the day. It's totally crazy. If they didn't know where the wig was, Oprah Winfrey got one
one, yes.
when Atina was alive, and they did like a kind of fun thing when she was on tour. It's not that hard, people.
Yeah,
Get it right.
Get it right.
Well,
there are
Callie,
pictures.
I will look
There are
forward to
pictures.
this coming Halloween when you will show us how one should dress up properly if they're doing Tina Turner. So I'm going to do my lightning round now, which is an RIP to an artist named Bill Dilworth. So he apparently passed away back in December, but news is just really kind of breaking out into the wider world about his death. So he was an abstract artist in his own right, but what he was most known for was for many years he tended a place which is called the New York Earth Room. So this is a room in Soho that is filled with 280,000 pounds of soil. It's on the second floor of a co-op, and it was installed there in 1977, itself the work of another artist called Walter de Maria. And the idea is, apparently for years, people who knew about this would just wander in and have some moments of solitude and thought in this space. And they say a couple dozen people wander in every day, and this guy, Bill Dilworth, who has been maintaining it, in himself is like this magnetic presence and kind of came to be somebody that people would go visit in this space, and he would kind of make everybody feel welcome. And so apparently he passed away, but like what an amazing sort of whole story.
So
that
like
something
soil?
I had never,
Like
it's just
bringing
soil.
just soil?
It's inches of soil
Wow.
in this huge loft
Wow.
in this building in downtown New York City.
Well, that supports people who say gardening is very meditative.
Yeah.
It does not do it for me, but I think I
You
get
don't
it.
have a green thumb?
Oh,
Is
I
there
have
are
a
there
brown thumb.
are there lawn
More
chairs?
ways than one.
Are there
No.
lawn
No,
chairs?
it's just you just go
dirt?
and it's dirt. You just go there and be in the space in the dirt.
Huh.
I definitely want to check.
can
Next
see
time I'm
that.
in New York, I am going to check.
Oh
it out.
yeah, no,
I will
definitely.
report back.
And you need to
Work.
send us pictures.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all
Okay.
for this edition of The Culture Show. Tune in on Monday for Pulitzer Prize-winning writer Richard Russo. Thanks today to the BPL technical and logistics crew. That's Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, and Olivia Corshio. Thank you to the Lenox Hotel and the Newsfeed Cafe. And huge thanks to everybody who came down to the Boston Public Library to hang with us today. Callie, very quick, what's up with Under the Radar? Very fast.
God. You just made me blank on it.
Don't worry about it, folks. If just tune in.
Oh my
to
God,
Under
it's
the
really
Radar
good. Oh,
with
Kufray
Callie.
and Quay. Infiniso Udafia's new
right.
show and my Pop Culture Roundtable.
Fantastic.
We're talking about a lot of stuff.
We're looking forward to that. Until then, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Have a great weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.